Well, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Zwift Community Live broadcast of the Zwift Classics route for the last race in the Classics for this year. It's London International. On the Classic course, this is a fairly well-known course in the world of Zwift on London, and it is on some of the most iconic roads, I think, in all of London. We're going past some pretty amazing virtual structures out there today, Dave, and this was actually a part of the Women's World Tour from I think it was like 2014 up to 2019 actually for this exact same 5.5 kilometer loop.
Yeah, this is, they have really embraced racing in London over the last it's a long history, but certainly the last couple of decades with the Olympics there in 2012 and their incredible investment. To tell you the truth, nations around the globe really learned a lot about what happens when you invest in a sport and how it can change everything from the bottom up. And you see so many more kids riding bikes now there. I mean, I'm talking about in the United Kingdom, and even having like car-free zones in London, and doing a lot of things that show you how the bicycle is the future for sure. And I got to say that this course is going to be a great way to wrap up our classic season. Nathan, I was kind of joking with a friend before the show here, talking about how this course will be a sprint for sure. Every time you say that, it seems like someone cracks the code on how to upset the apple cart. And it sounds like that happened in New Zealand, actually.
This morning. Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Actually, this morning, Cridland, Jonah Cridland walked away with about 700 meters to go or so, threw down an arrow power up as a counter to one of the DBR riders, Nim, who was definitely the most aggressive rider there in the day. We did have riders trying to break things up. They didn't want it to become a sprint in the New Zealand C1 race. And then Cridland took advantage of a counter attack with an arrow power up. It had to be, I saw 18 watts per kilogram for a moment, got the speeds really, really high. He got just enough space. He had 2 seconds on the over the pack in the last 200 meters. They just couldn't close the gap, and that was history there for the final of the Zwift Classics for New Zealand. So it can be done. There's a couple other ways I think it can be done as well. There could be a solo or a couple of rider breakaway. It's very difficult to make it happen, but it actually almost happened in that race as well. Depending on the firepower that shows up and the willingness to work together. It might be a little more difficult, though, in Europe. There tends to be, in my opinion, just a larger number of riders with the willingness in a pack to bring things back. But you never know. We'll see how it plays out here.
Couldn't agree more, though, Nathan. It's a tougher nut to crack. Let's put it that way when you talk about the European fields. I mean, we're looking at over 80 riders, and a couple of the groups obviously we're into the final here, and some of these names have become pretty familiar, but it's a little bit different kind of course that we have here today. And circling back to what you said at the beginning of the show, Nathan, I think that honestly, that tried and true, the rider who's able to keep their powder dry, do the least amount of work through what's going to be a very aggressive 6 laps or 5 laps, depending on which category we're talking about. We'll be jumping around and looking at different races today. But that being said, being there for that what happens in the final 2K, because I'm not going to say it's going to be one solo rider and everybody's going to be watching for that now. And you talked about the depth of this European group that we're in with, but I think there might be a split very late where all of a sudden you're sprinting out of an 8-rider, 12-rider group instead of a 30-rider group. We'll see how many make it down even into that last lap.
It's going to be super dependent on how they play this course. So let's go ahead and take a quick look. It is 6 laps, 38.28K for the 6 laps of the C1s. We will also be in with the C3s. This is going to be across all of the European races today, so we'll be in with the Eastern, Central, as well as Western for the C1s and the C3s. As you can see, there is a little bit of a lead-in, and then they hit the actual loop proper on the left-hand side of your screen there. The little bump, the first time up, is a lead-in into the Strand and the Trafalgar Square, and then on over to that 1K to go banner. You will see the 1K to go banner each and every lap, but it is not 1K to go, obviously, until the final lap. Whitehall, though, it is a little bit of a bump every lap. In my opinion, it's not quite enough to make a break happen alone. At least once in a long while I've seen it happen. Usually people can shut that down pretty quickly. I've seen personally the best way to make it happen is to try and go from around Buckingham Palace, around St. James. It's got to just be that long enough drag to take a left-hand turn and then go up Whitehall. You'll see it in the race if you're unfamiliar with the roads. And it's really more of that 1 to 1.5 minute effort, maybe even 2 minute effort that can put people on that back foot with a multiple kick. Usually just one single kick. Almost anybody amongst a crew that's about the same level can follow that.
One thing I would anticipate is a smaller group than you might usually anticipate going to the line here. There's going to be less team tactics, I think, as far as trying to chase back breakaways. And there's going to be riders that really get out here. I'm going to expect to see, Nathan, an incredibly aggressive race, all things put together here, for what's going to be a fun 30, let's call it 38 and some change out here for this group.
Jumping on in with the C1s, this is the Eastern Europe C1s. We do see the power-ups that are on board out here today. As you can see, it is going to be the Aero power-up, the Ghost power-up being used in front of us here, as well as the truck is going to be available. So be on the watch out for those. They are on different percentages today. The Aero has a 50% chance to be seen. I believe it's a 30% chance on the truck and a 20% chance on the Invisibility Ghost power-up. As we do see somebody employing exactly that. That's going to be at the front. No, it's going to be Mads Bang, our man, with a 7.7 little bit of an attack. Looking to take first across the line, I think, but with Grief only 1 second back now at this point from Dirt. Also doing the same, though. He is invisible when he was going. This might really upset this pack. And if he does get across, we'll see if something starts to develop here. They may not be super interested in this first time through. It does look like John Worms coming on up, though. It's going to be 16 watts per kilogram for him for this first sprint point here. SC going neck to neck against each other. Love to see it. Which rider with both Aero power-ups? I have no idea. But Mads Bang upsets them all. He actually came through first. He actually held on to that. I didn't even notice his avatar ahead, and the two SC riders have to settle for second and third.
So when you talk about John comes in as certainly one of the riders to put a star next to his name. John Vandermeet here is one of the Swedish Zwifters and Swedish Zwifters all over the front of this race right now. I have a feeling, Nathan, that they're going to make this incredibly hard early because there's absolutely no sense in solo attacking this race right now other than to try to get riders to come with you and just start splitting this group up. And look how they're tailing riders off the back of this group right now. So they're going to go out really hard, it looks like, and see if they can put maybe a dozen riders, show them the back door here on lap number 1. Well, you certainly hope you warmed up.
Look at Madeline. Mad LaRue is on the front of this race. This is amazing.
She's a machine.
Just goes straight to the front and says, okay, boys, I'll take a pull through at 5.6 watts per kilogram to make things difficult. Vicky Nealon's in here as well amongst the women. So we do have a women's race in and amongst this C1 that we'll be able to watch play out in front of our eyes here. And I did see one other rider a little bit earlier. I'll have to wait and see if I can find it. But Madeline and Vicky, 1v1 maybe, is what's happening out here amongst the ladies. As I'm not seeing another avatar at this moment with the B category green next to the name. But does look like Juice heading toward the front. Now, those little turnarounds, they do slow the avatars down. It does give a little bit of an opportunity to try and make a punch off the front. It does look like we have one rider doing exactly just that. And I believe that's going to be Noah Bouch here, coming from the Wes Oral 7 team, giving a little bit of a kick. And if this is a rider of anybody that can make something happen, I've ridden with him before. Very, very strong rider. And he's actually got the setup, too. We've been talking about this being the 1%er setup. Now, this morning, me and Anna were joking because this costs you about 2.3 million drops. 2.3 million drops to get this setup now. It is a very
worth every setup. Drop.
It is worth every drop.
So Anna can confirm they have 1%ers in New Zealand too, eh?
I don't even know if she knew what I was talking about.
I'm sure she did. She's hip. So, boy, they're going to pepper this race, Nathan. No doubt about it. The group right now hanging in there, but these guys are going to continue to throw something up the road and see what happens. It's going to be a lot of fun to watch, that's for sure. If you haven't been with us the last couple of weeks, when I say with us, talking about Nathan and myself, and certainly Zwift Community Live, but we also WTRL on Thursdays. Maud Lemieux, and you'll hear us going back and forth between Maud and Madeline, and it's she blames her parents, and I can appreciate. I'm already a big fan. Communicated with her a little bit last week after I was concerned about getting her name wrong. It turns out no one was wrong, Nathan. It's like she has three different sort of names that she goes by, which is, but it should be the Beast. Just make it simple, because she is insanely talented. Again, just to be clear, I'm talking about Maud Elaine Leroux out of South Africa on Wahoo Lacole, but Madeline might be the best way to go, Nathan. I think actually you're right on that. Madeline is the most comfortable name to use, and she's going to be a breakthrough rider. I also heard Nadia Gantova has signed with Insured for the
I've heard all kinds of things about Insured, so I think we're going to just we'll keep the lid on a little bit for maybe another hour, because actually, and Dave is just finding out about this, we got guests from a couple of teams that are going to be jumping in with us in about an hour. It's going to be a lot of fun to hang out with them, actually. So
now they must be from Insured,
well,
or one of them.
We're gonna have
You don't want to tip your
exciting
hand.
announcement, because you can't answer that straight, as a little bit of a hint. That's going out there. So super interesting things happening.
It's not Nadia Gantova, is it?
No, I don't believe Nadia is going to be in. Well, I mean, from what I've saw in the emails, I'm not sure, but I do not believe Nadia will be with us. But we definitely have some of the riders that will be related to the brands you're talking about. They're hanging out. So a little bit of kick over Whitehall, not really going anywhere, Dave, it looks like just yet. It was a try there from Mills, it looked like, 7 watts per kilogram, but there was no orange. No orange.
No, and you know what, Nathan? The name of the game here, the strategy is, if I was directing any rider, is stay in the first third of this group, try to stay in the sweet spot, keep your nose out of the wind, the virtual wind, as much as you can, but certainly don't even cover attacks unless something really dangerous with 2 or 3 of the heaviest of hitters goes up the road. Yeah, like Brian Hodges. That's good to see. The American is out here. Speaking of Insured, presented by Pedal Power. I just saw Brian Hodges.
I didn't even notice that. Yeah, I just noticed you saying that. So good to see Hodges.
So, yeah, absolutely. We were talking about how the Swallows are returning to Capistrano with like I see Jonas Bjarhed is out here today, and Gareth Just. We were talking about the Estonian rider, Nathan. He's certainly going to be someone to watch in this field. Jorge Moreno, also, of course, Roy Arts of World Elite Zwifters, presented by Oral 7, all sitting up here in this front group. So they have whittled it down, to tell you the truth. So now that we look at this, I mean, calling it, a third smaller than what they started with.
Yeah, it's built down quite a bit. Actually, we do have it looks
for one lap or a lap and a half in London. I'd say almost 2 laps, right? But
yeah, almost 2 laps, but solid effort so far. Mentioning this rider on a course like this for me, with Hodges, there was a time where when a rider showed up, specifically on this course, Anderson's going to do it again. Same exact move as last. We'll get back to that. Just was going to mention that Hodges is the type that, he shows up to his sprinters and it's kind of like who's racing for second. So be watching out for him for sure. There was a time on this course a couple of years back, actually, in the history of Zwift racing. There was just a couple of riders that were just out of this world. Canyon Esports, with the Python, as well, almost always taking down every single sprint. Is he going to make it happen here? Maybe going to get nipped at the line. Roy Arts does come across this time, but I would just be watching Hodges to the final pedal stroke, because he's just sitting in and seems to not care about anything except for the first across the line when it comes to the final finish line. And I compare him to a James Phillips here when it comes to Insured. During that little season when Phillips was in the UK National Championship, jersey, he was riding for Canyon, and he was just winning every single sprint. I remember specifically on this course multiple times, just dominating. And unless Hodges hasn't been doing his homework at all, and it doesn't really have his kick, which I'm not expecting, I'd say he is an absolute favorite to win in this field today.
Couldn't argue that. The only thing I'd say is I'm not sure where his form is at. But certainly good money would be going with you, Nathan. That's for sure. Brian Hodges is also. Have you ever seen him show up? I'm sorry, without his A game. You know,
No, I
he doesn't
haven't.
mess
No,
around.
I mean,
Right?
I
Yeah.
don't know if
So
I've ever. I think I've only seen him lose like 2 sprints, and it was like probably
yeah.
Premier Division, right? Like it was probably like some sort of everybody who's the top cream of the crop was there kind of a thing. So
Yeah.
we'll see how it plays out here, but they need to
Well,
drop
hopefully.
Hodges. That's the goal of the group. If I were in this group, my entire goal would be to be like, we need to split this thing. I do not want to go to the
You've
line.
done a pretty. I would say that you've effectively marked him, right? So for any rider who wasn't aware who Brian Hodges is, you now are. This guy is
kind
a
of just
legend.
threw a wrench. I threw a wrench in Brian's race
You know
here
what?
today.
For a guy like Brian Hodges, that's the only way we can level the playing field is having everyone racing against him because he is that strong. And you know what? It's been that way for him for a long time. All joking aside, that's what you get by being the king of the hill. The tall tree gets the wind. And Brian Hodges is the tall tree. This guy's a legend. And certainly any of the new riders would have picked up on that very, very quickly. So that being said, the level is always going up out here in esports. And as we wrap up the classics here, how about Vicky Nealon today? I was giving Madeline credit. And, you know, it's interesting because there's riders like Alice Lethbridge and Vicky Nealon who I feel like, Nathan, we've done over my time, last year and a third or so, talked about her a lot, but there's a lot to talk about. She's still just absolutely fantastic talent. Is going to be a huge part of Hino and what they do in season 4 of ZRL. Really, really excited. I mean, here's Vicky always punching above her weight, hanging right in here with us.
Isn't it? Isn't it like 3 seasons in a row? If you don't know, this is a rider who's been a part of winning 3 seasons in a row.
Yeah, Nathan, it's possible. We could go back and do some data mining, but she's possibly been in every single race.
True.
True. You know what I mean? She's one of the very few that has. I mean, it's entirely possible she's missed 1 or 2 here or there. The seasons are typically 8 races long, but so over the 24 races, I wouldn't be surprised, Nathan, if she's done 24 of them.
Yeah, I would not be surprised at all. Usually doesn't miss a beat, that's for sure. Loving the kit. She's also shown that she's showing up in the fastest of the fast. And it's amazing to me how many of these riders just have drops saved up, waiting for that special moment to say, okay, I'm going to drop some in. This just want to shout out Debbie in Shape says it was madness earlier today. Here we go again. Loving the consistency coming on in from some of our Twitch viewers. And actually, Debbie was here for the New Zealand stream, so it looks like she just can't get enough of the Zwift Community Live broadcasting of the races. And it sounds like Debbie is going to be broadcasting next to Anna a little bit, perhaps. We had a little conversation about that this morning.
Oh,
yeah? Anna, she is 9 months pregnant and Zwifting and streaming her races. So over on Twitch, which is absolutely awesome to see. How committed she is to being out there, and she said she's just trying to get things to move along, perhaps. So get things going, which I can relate to that. Having 5 kids, that was one of the tactics used in this household as well.
Let's just keep the process moving. Anna Russell, I'm just such a big fan of her enthusiasm and dedication. Former professional, still professional triathlete, professional mom, and certainly a huge talent and part of the Zwift Community Live family. Kate Bates as well. Nathan, I've really missed Kate Bates, but Kate has been busy doing Tour de France broadcasts in Australia. So we'll get the gang back together here as ZRL kicks off. September 28th is the first race there, and everyone obviously looking forward to that. Jacques Griff is the South African here on dirt. Dad's indoors riding trainers. Another one of the perennial contenders out here, Nathan, without any doubt. Jacques is, I would say, one of the 5 strongest riders, and certainly I envision him on the podium when this one is done and dusted.
A little bit of a punch here. This is a nice little move. Rough. And this is right before you come around the corner, which is kind of the way to do this a little bit of a gap, and then you punch out of the corner. The question is whether or not
these are 2 of the scariest guys.
Oh yeah, Gray.
You'd have to say John and Jacques are two of the strongest riders in this field, so that always should turn some heads.
So, Steve, is this going to be Gray from Team Experimental off the front with? It looks like
I thought
Grief.
it was.
I thought so too for a second, but now it's going to be the Dirt Rider, Team Experimental Rider, out to 3 seconds now. Mad's just kind of shutting things down. The thing I like about this group is that with the experience that's in this group, they're not necessarily just going to set a 4 to 5 watt per kilogram on the front and bring this back. Riders being smart amongst this crew are thinking about jumping across. They're thinking about either jumping across or just waiting to see what happens with the sprint, because the sprint is just going to bring this right on back.
I think, Nathan, to illustrate the previous point, most of these riders realizing, especially that Hodges is here, are going to save it all for the finale. This is the big one. This is London. This wraps up this summer-long classic series that's been so much fun. We've gone all over the different worlds of racing. But here in London, this one's going to be all about the sensational finale. Hodges in the mix means I think you got to save every bullet you've got. Now, you can get out and stretch your legs a little bit like Weekly here. And I'm impressed. No doubt, Gray, Weekly, they're making things rough. Anderson, Mads Bang Anderson there, the Danish rider on Pio Auto, he's been throughout all of the classics. One of the, they almost got there in time. But let's see if this surge does any damage. It usually stretches things out a little bit, but it's like a rubber band. It'll snap back together. I would imagine we are just coming to the midpoint now of this race. 39-ish Ks, 6 laps today in London. And it's full gas, no question. Couple of the ladies hanging in there, Madeline and Vicky, still up in this group. But you can see, Nathan, those surges put a few guys at the back of this group in a little bit of trouble.
Yeah, 2.2 laps down at this point, it looks like. And a little bit of it, like you said, there is a little bit of struggle here. Looks like inattention, actually, from Ramajo at this point, as he does easily get back on terms, but I think he just wasn't paying quite enough attention. Benedict,
they sat up too a little, which was nice.
Unable
let's
to
see if Benedictus. Let's see if the Benedictus can get back up in there.
I mean,
that slight lull helps.
5 seconds, there is going to be a lull maybe around the corner here, but it just continues to go at 2.2. I think this is full nuclear in the legs.
Oh boy!
So not coming back. Oh boy!
This group is not playing around today, keeping the pace very, very high. And this is not even an exceptional moment for them, but for a solo rider to chase in with no help. Yikes.
Who's on the front here from, I didn't recognize the name. It looks like, is that a Kirchmer rider? I didn't actually know that we had a.
It's close, but I'm not sure that's Kirchmer. Is it? I mean, I see black and yellow like you, and I agree that's the colors of the team, but it almost looks like a different jersey to me. As I say that, it actually is Kirchmeier, isn't it?
It is, but I do not see a Kirchmeier. Yep. Oh, KC. Yep, I do see the German flag bouncing around here a little bit. We also have a BZR Eagles, which is similar colors. So we'll see if we can find the Kirchmeier rider here and figure out what's happening, because they're always a threat usually. Not a name that I'm super familiar with, though, that I saw coming through. So it'll be interesting.
There's only like 380 riders, 380 on the team now, Nathan. I would like you to get them all memorized.
Working on it. We're working on it here. Both sign, if I've got that right.
Interesting to see that name, Dvorak. There's an American Racer World team member, Andrea Dvorak, who's now out there doing, friend of Eddie Anderson, and great person. And there's another, it looked like, I think that was the Czech flag.
Look, I'll see.
There's a lot of riders still in here, Nathan, and we might have a surprise. We were talking about Brian Hodges, the American uninsured, and without any doubt, I mean, this is a 4-star, absolute talent, and it's going to be a big test for the riders looking forward to any of the sprints this year to see. Like, there's Daryl Carter. Daryl Carter's still in this race, and Gareth Just as well, are 2 riders that are going to have a shot at what has been a gold standard in esports sprinting, without any doubt. Maud is still hanging in there. Madeline is still hanging in there like
Doing
a
an
boss.
amazing job. Now
Yeah,
this has calmed down.
she's
You
a
know,
triathlete.
the C1's a little bit chill. They're kind of watching each other a lot. I'm gonna head on over to the C3s real quick because they're not messing around.
Oh
So they're
wow.
heading into
Okay.
their second lap here, and or heading into their third lap. Excuse me. And there was a break happening. They've split it
Is Rudy in
multiple
it?
times at this point. We actually see back here 3 seconds back now, just hanging on with Mackey, but 58 seconds back in no man's land, we're going to have Patty and then another group there with the Francelet. And then even behind that, another group. There's a women's race playing out in front of us as well. So looks like 30-some riders have made this, but this was absolute mayhem just a moment ago as riders were all over the road. It has come back together for a moment, but it's not like they're slowing down at the front. Again, another attack with Potter. It looks like on the front. Now backing off, is that going to be a herd rider? Always great to see if you don't recognize the kit. It's herds. It herds so good. I absolutely love the plays. I like the way that they have so much fun in game. Actually, some of these teams, herd definitely one of them. As we haven't seen the moo in quite a while though. We haven't seen their battle call as they take off from the pens actually. But if you didn't know, they usually moo as they take off. But they should actually do that before they sprint. But I guess that would tip everybody to when they were going.
Robin Potter is the rider out of England that we're looking at. 96 kilo.
Whew.
Yeah, that's a big racer for sure.
And I think he might have a crazy sprint. Yeah, and the watch out when it just comes down to
the raw wattage.
The raw wattage is just going to be like, watch out. 70K an hour or something down the road. We'll see how it ends up happening there, as it is a downhill sprint as well. A little bit of punch off the front with is that a new setup or an old school setup? Let's see if we can find. I think it is a newer setup, as I do see a dirt rider with a little bit of a punch. It's probably going to be.
So these are C3s that we're in with. You can see all of the, if you're on Zwift Power, you can see there's all of the different categories, all the way from the zeros. We've been in with the ones for the most part. This is all part of the new AutoCat system. The riders are placed in with riders using a whole bunch of different metrics in the algorithm to determine that you're in racing with the right level group. And it's always fun to see because one of the things that AutoCat doesn't factor in is your gender. It gets split out for results, and we have it split out. But the couple, you'll see women like we were talking about, Vicky and Madeline in the C1 race, and I'm sure there's a few women in this field as well. As a matter of fact, there's more than a few. There's almost 10, to tell you the truth. Or make it 8 women. So I'm sure a few of those names will be popping up for us here.
Yeah, let's go ahead and see if we can find some of the. It'll be underneath the B category for the women. They'll start out of the B pens as they do race.
Rihanna, Janelle Yelov, the Dutch Diesel team has been. They all start at the same time, so you end up seeing some interesting mix in groups.
See if we can figure out on the live where things are at here amongst them as they make their way around course for the women. And I believe the top, this is going to be the leaders currently with Yumi Hypes and Lauren Camp. Little ways behind Ut Istuns and Amy Young from the Gorilla Firm. Not familiar with the Gorilla Firm, actually. She's riding for Coalition as her tagged in the Zwift Power, but has a tag called Gorilla Firm. I wonder if that's like a WTRL team or something. That sounds like a pretty fun team to be a part of. Looking back, that rider, Amy Young, we can find her out on course. There it is. Riding well. It says Coalition here in her tag now. Is trying to chase down you. Looks like she is being chased by Q Lightfoot. We'll see if she can hold her off. 175 beats per minute. This is full on TT mode for a current 4th place rider amongst the women. This is not a fun place to be, right, Dave?
No, absolutely not. certainly, she's got about, well, we're at the midpoint of the race right now, so hopefully she'll link up with a couple riders to be able to start working. I agree with you on the gorilla. Sound very WTRL-ish, doesn't it? The teams have a ton of fun with the names, and we see tremendous creativity for sure. So this is Amy Young of Gorilla Firm, but also Coalition. Because of WTRL, you'll see teams with multiple different affiliations that they have. It certainly makes sense.
Yeah, it does look like Amy is just jumping back into the world of racing here. Off the map, stage 1, 2, and 3 is the last thing she did in August. And then it looks like took a break all the way from back to May and then as well as February. So it's like just getting back into the racing scene. Maybe that's a ZRL, practice race getting under the belt here. I think as we're going to start seeing a lot of riders start to jump back onto the platform and come out of the woodwork here. This is going to be our currently, I believe, third place rider. Now just dropped off from Hypes and Camp as we are in with Ut Iskrans coming out of Germany. And she's been on the platform all the way through August as well as a little bit in June as she was playing. Actually, she's definitely a ZRL racer as she rides for the Zwift Racers of Germany, actually. Great to see. And there's actually, it looks like a couple of is this their sub teams within ZRG perhaps? Because I'm seeing an extra name on the back end of ZRG now for the Zwift Power profile. And it's Watt Fabrik, unless that's a new sponsor for the Zwift Riders of Germany. Let's see if we can figure something out there because that's new. I haven't seen that before. Cool to see if they did pick up a sponsor, and it's a part of their for now. Jumping forward.
United Kingdom cat.
Go ahead, Dave.
I was just going to say, taking a look at this is the front of the women's race when you talk about Camp, Lauren Camp here of the Herd team. So we were talking about a 96 kilo racer. Lauren's half of that, 47 kilo for Lauren Camp, doing a very good job of hanging in there. We've got the United Kingdom, Canada, United States, Germany, all represented with our women racers out here. They're all over the shop right now.
I want to just give a shout out to Lauren and let her know she's got the best Zwift Power profile picture I've seen in a long time. Is that essentially how Zwift makes you feel? Lauren, just a quick question. If you do end up watching the broadcast, let me know. It looks slightly panicked, and it's just one of those hilarious, like, I'll just load this picture up. Great job, Lauren, giving us a laugh. A little bit of a kick here in the parts of the race, where she most likely has an advantage being such a light rider out there. She's got a solid 3.62 watts per kilogram to give for 20 minutes as well at only 177 watts. So being light, a little bit of advantage a lot of times on the uphills. As you said, though, hanging in amongst the watt monsters on the flats does make things a little bit different. So it does look like this is going to be where she's going to be looking to hang on. Hybe's not letting her go anywhere. It's just the battle for the women in the C3s, and she is stuck directly to this Herd rider's wheel.
Yumi.
Yeah, she's doing a great job, the Canadian.
Yeah, good to see Yumi Hybes up here. Big step forward, as that's the real battle going on inside of this group in the parentheses here, talking about Lauren Camp and Yumi Hybes. This is, again, the front group for the women as they're through the middle part of this race. It's going to be, for this group, 5 laps of racing for 33K out here. It's 6 laps for our C1s. And yeah, so it looks like things pretty steady right now in this group. More attacking certainly to come.
I just want to give a shout out to Yumi. She did the Ride to End Owls, actually, Summer Challenge on Sunday as well.
Shit.
So big shout out to her. Yeah, awesome. Thanks
Raised
for
over.
jumping in
She was
with
part
us.
of raising over $200,000.
Yeah, absolutely awesome.
How about that?
Great job. Great job, Yumi.
That was a
And,
sensational
thanks for the
effort.
support. So cool to like jump into a racing situation here and find a rider who was amongst, we had a few hundred, I think in total, like signups and stuff, it was a little over 100 riders, I want to say. But to find the one rider that's now a part of the race here as well is
really
pretty cool to see. Yeah. So
Yeah.
great Big
Hey,
shout
that's
out,
really
Balint.
good that you noticed that. I'm really, really impressed. That was Sunday, the ride to end Alzheimer's. It was the fourth of the Alzheimer's challenges, and there's just so many. You can go back and watch it on YouTube. There's so many exciting things happening right now for them, and there are a lot of other folks riding. Nathan, that's the 1K kite, and that even though we're not down to 1K to go right now, this is a good look at kind of reconnoitering the finale. It's always good to pay attention to what it looks like. That 6% grade that we saw earlier is going to be the steepest bit. And certainly a rider like Lauren Camp would be hoping, well, this is not Lauren's group. We were just with them a moment ago, that it finished on a 6% grade. But this is going to be now our C3 front group, Lindqvist and company. Swedes, you can see a few SZ jerseys there. That's the white, blue, and yellow jersey.
Little bit of a punch off the front as we get back in with the front group here. And there's going to be, again, I think maybe one of the most aggressive riders in the C3s, Balint, has been doing.
Agreed.
And I saw this earlier, and it almost made things happen. He's taking a little bit of a playbook tip that I gave over on World of Zwift, that from St. James Place Park, which we just saw them go by, and into this left-hand turn, it is uphill pretty much the whole way, actually. If you didn't, there's only a moment after that little bump that you go downhill, you can gain some speed. And then from there on out, you're going slightly uphill until you hit this kick. Does give you a little bit of an opportunity. It just looked like there's a battle for a sprint. Looks like Heebs is going to take it down in the right-hand side just a moment ago. The women were sprinting. We didn't jump over because I want to see how this plays out here. But shout out to Heebs for taking out that sprint over Lauren Camp just a moment ago. Balint, though, 4 seconds. Somebody comes across, but he's fading a little bit here, Dave.
Yeah, and that would be the question. Is someone going to come join him, or is this a temporary effort? And it looks like he's going to go back into the fold. Maybe someone's going to come up over the top of him. That really starts to matter at this point as they're down into the final third. This is our C3, the front group, a split happening. Actually, let's watch here. The next 30 seconds are going to tell us a lot. Peter, the Hungarian rider, Peter Balint, has been one of the strongest and most consistent riders throughout all of our classics. Yeah, he's going to settle right in. We got ourselves what I would say, Nathan, is the one and only serious breakaway of the day coming together right now. So let's see who wants to work for us, and trying to figure out who the other rider is here. Making up this three-rider group.
From Dirty Sprocket. Squirrel from Dirty Sprocket here off the front. Now, interesting enough, though, we do have a ZRG rider there, Tache. Heads right to the front, puts down 4 watts per kilogram, speeds the pack up, and is not interested in letting this roll away. He's actually going to 5 watts per kilogram, maybe enough from that rider behind. No, it's not going to be enough to actually split anything apart. They're cruising along at 42 kilometers per hour. You do a quick little comparison, that does help a ton to figure out whether or not they are bringing it back. 41 from them, 42 from the pack. I'm not sure it's going to happen here, Dave.
It's not going to happen. There's no doubt. There's so many things working against them right now. If they don't open this up to a 15-second gap almost immediately, it has no chance, because just dangling out front here for the next 13K is not a reality.
Yeah, truth. Absolutely. 4 seconds, though, as it does go out a little bit. So now the reality is, in just a moment, that we are going to have another sprint situation, unless you have a 15-second gap or so, probably, I would say, going into that sprint situation. Usually the high speeds of a sprint is going to bring things right back in the fold.
We got 2 laps. We got 2 laps of racing after that sprint, right? So, I mean, knowing that, this must be a play for sprint points.
Richard Wells saying truce on this sprint. Like, don't attack us on it. I don't think that's going to happen here, Rich. Who's going to give a truce? I think the whole pack is just hungry today.
That might have been back in the Yumi Heebs group.
True. There may be that was not.
I think that's where that comment was coming from.
Main group here. 2 seconds is the gap. Corey here to the front from Evo. It does look like Balint is still interested in keeping this moving as he pushes to the front here. Nussbaumer now 8.5, 10 watts per kilogram, 200 meters to go as they catch not that front pack. Actually, they're going to roll through ahead as Squirrel takes the points down just barely. over the Fournier tries to come over the top, unable to do so. Third, Walbeck's gonna have to settle for it. Nussbaumer there for fourth, and then
No
Selby from the
counterattack
Rhinos.
either. Well, I say that there. Yeah, it doesn't look like. Well, maybe one rider is going to counterattack out of this. Certainly be an interesting time too, because everyone is pretty weary right now. But I don't think that's going to be enough either. That's going to be Selby, one of the Rhino riders that we're looking at, going to keep things strung out. That's for sure.
If I were Selby, in the back of my head, I'd just be, come on, one or two, come across, just one or two riders, come across. But
yeah, honestly, I would say,
happening.
yeah, I would say way too far out for that.
3.5 watts.
Maybe at 4K.
Not going to be enough here.
Yeah, it's just like so much momentum and power. This group is ready to shut anything down. These are C3s that we're in with, but it might as well be the C1s, just the way they're racing right now. Just cover and kill, cover and kill. Anything goes up the road, they give it a little bit of leash, and then they just slam it back. And even without that sprint, that group that was dangling off the front was they were in hot water the whole time.
Jumping on over to our C1s now. Just looks like on the front. And giving a little bit of a kick as they come through. Back on over to the Strand. We're going to take a left-hand turn. Well, 180-degree turn in just a moment. And they'll be into the final. Is it going to be the final lap already, actually?
Yes. They're about a lap and a half from the finish. 39K. Out here,
absolutely flying out here today. 41 minutes in, and already into this final final case here of the race. And
because not only in this group, but riding up in the front of this group, just tucked right in the sweet spot, is Madeline Leroux, South African
Vicky
rider
is
here.
still here. I'm really impressed.
Both the ladies are riding. Yeah, super strong. Not a huge surprise.
Now, as far as the watts per kilogram go out here today, when it comes to 15 seconds, the matching of a 17.8 is going to be a tough one to do. The interesting thing is Garrett
talking about Hodges
does have 16. Now, if he times things well, he does have the same raw power about 100 watts off on the raw power, but you know, a good something timed well could challenge Hodges, but Hodges just, an incredible level above the rest. Noah Bouch also has about a 15 watt per kilogram sprint, just over 1,000 watt, under 1,000 watts though. Not as quite nearly as much of the raw power, but we're looking at almost 1,300 watts for 15 seconds actually from the rider Brian Hodges. So talk about the snappy rider.
Fair. Yeah, and you know what's interesting is it's going to be a kind of a point counterpoint, but it's not just about wattage. There's a lot of gameplay, Zwift craft, but unfortunately, Brian Hodges is also exceptional at that. So, you know, if you're going to say like, yeah, but a really smart rider could, and it's like, yeah, and he's a really smart rider too. So
exactly,
if you
exactly. So Matt's Bang Anderson here, 14 watt per kilogram kick here. It looks like he's going to walk away with this one. No problem. With the arrow power up. Solid of there from Vision. Looks like followed by Bouch. That's 3 off the front. That's 1, 2, 3 for the points. Mateus Messerschmidt there. It's all going to roll back together. 1 lap to go, though, Dave. This is when I'd start thinking about countering or making moves if I do not want a sprint finish.
Yeah, and it's going to take, I think you're going to need 2 other riders who want to operate with the same objective to make that happen here. One rider alone, it's going to be really, really tough, but you're absolutely right, Nathan. It gets to that point, maybe, that 6% grade is going to be an interesting, that sector to get through that. If the group is intact by the time we go up and over the top of that, it should be a field sprint, although I don't know that everyone here is going to make it into that sprint. Not everyone on your screen right now.
Yeah, it depends on how they play this. If they keep it pretty calm, because it has been a fairly calm race, to be honest. There hasn't been too many serious attacks taking place. So we'll see how this ends up playing out, because I just get I get the sense that these riders in this race have just kind of kept things a little more chill, following wheels, waiting for the sprints, knowing who's amongst this pack, feeling shut down. I just haven't really seen anything that's really tried to stick or taken too many big risks.
I agree. I mean, I think they've been pretty realistic, to tell you the truth, knowing that attacking this race with one lap in was going to be going nowhere. Might as well save it up for a realistic attack late in the race, and that's why I would expect old school fury, to tell you the truth, in the final 3K, because there's a lot of fresh legs here. That being said, not everybody wants to wait for the final sprint, so what's the tactic? Certainly going somewhere inside 3K to go, maybe getting 2 riders, even 1 rider to go with you, get a little bit of a relay effect and hope that you can pull it off, because we'll go back to where we started with this. Insured, presented by Pedal Power's got Brian Hodges in this race, and the American makes almost 18 watts per kilo for 15 seconds. That's stratospheric numbers. Raw power at over 1250. And this is Hodges that we're in with right now. Clearly, all of these guys have got the memo. Right, Arts.
Yeah, and
right
I have not seen
group.
a single power up from Hodges either, which tells me he got an arrow pretty early. He may have dropped 1 or 2, so he most likely has what's needed. With a 50% chance to grab the arrow out there today, it's going to be pretty easy for a lot of these riders to get it if they want it, unless they've had to use it for some reason earlier on. Again, I've not seen, as far as the tactic that's being played out here, I think it's pretty obvious at this point. If I look at the watts per kilogram that have been averaged throughout the race out here today, when it comes to all of the riders out here, Mads Bang Anderson, 4.0 watts per kilogram, pretty high there. Madeline LaRue's actually put out 4.9. She's been absolutely smashing this race, it looks like. But for Hodges, let's see if we can find what kind of
It speaks to raw power too, because Madeline probably weighs, I don't have it right in front of me, but it's probably at 50 kilo or so. So she's had to make a lot of power to stay 55 kilo. So she's had to make a lot of power to stay in this group. It's certainly, this course does not play into her favor. This is going to be Balch that we're looking at right now as we go back. Noah Balch, the American on World Elite Zwifters Oral 7, who this is the attack that we were talking about. Nathan, here we go. Welcome to downtown Payne City as it is on. I love it. Noah Balch is going to be the first to throw down the gauntlet here, Nathan.
I know this guy's power profile pretty well from racing with him, actually, in the TTT. This is a rider who can hold this kind of wattage all the way to the line. I wouldn't say 7, but he can go over 6 all the way through. And, with this initial kick here, he can make this happen here. And Ramajo, they're starting to panic a little bit, and I would be. This can't be a sit and wait for the sprint situation. Even with little punches, it's got to be a chase at some point.
Good for him. So, Nathan, I completely agree. So when you look at the 20-minute power profile, he's close to 5.7 watts per kilo. No one else is even close. So, and this is where it's going to be really key for him to try to hold on to the small advantage. He'll try to pour it on when it goes uphill. But Noah, I love it. Give him the Courageous Award. That's for sure. He's completely committed, pushing all the chips into the middle of the table. That's going to be Gareth Just right up on the front. Swedish Zwifters all over the place. Look at it at the back of the group, Nathan. They're going hard enough that riders are getting their tickets punched here.
There are 4 Swedish Zwift racers now. Vicky Nealon's also getting involved on this chase. It's 8 seconds at this point, 6 watts per kilogram. Now the question is, do they have the willingness to burn matches of riders? Are there riders here that are just there for the sacrifice? Because if they don't have too many of those, then it's over. If they don't have sacrificial lambs out here today, this race is done.
You know what? What a way to wrap up the classic season here, as this one, the London Classic, is exactly that, as ordered. So you can see that's your leader. He's already gone around this U-turn here. Noah with a 10-second advantage. So hovering right around 10 seconds. He's got him on the ropes. They're going to rapidly run out of real estate. Now, 10 seconds isn't a lot of time, but to Noah Balch, it is, as he's going to be able to scrape the bottom of the barrel. We're focusing in on your solo leader right now, and he should be a little
This looks over.
1K.
It's over. I think this is over at 10 seconds now, and he's within 800 meters. They're
He's
doing
not
2-2 on the
fading.
front. 49 kilometers
So-
per hour. They're doing 45. Noah has won this race. This is done, in my opinion. Maybe I'm going to be
Wow,
wrong
it's
here
so-
and call me out, but if unless they go now, he has won.
So
He's out
this
of
is
sight.
where,
They can't even
and he's
see him,
not
Dave.
fading. He's not fading. He's still making huge numbers. Now they're starting to really kick, but I think it's going to, I'm with you, Nathan. I think that's too little too late. Noah
He's already,
Balch
he can
caught
see
them
the
off
finish
guard.
line.
This is it.
What a move by WEZ. Amazing.
Never even had to use it. Didn't even need the arrow power up. This one is done and dusted with a stunning win here. Boom, boom. Noah Balch puts the lights out with a fantastic win in London. Noah, well, you're talking about New Zealand. They didn't wait to the sprint. That's why Brian Hodges is going to absolutely crush it for Insured. He'll take the silver medal, but the gold standard, making the platinum medal for Noah Balch today. That was outstanding. Wow, Nathan. That was really cool.
That was amazing.
Who says breakaways can't win in Zwift? You know what I'm saying? Who says they always talk about how that's impossible? Well, there it was. Noah Balch.
Amazing job. Amazing job by Noah. Just super, super impressed. We do have our next race coming up shortly, actually. And we are going to be in with the C1s as well as the C0s, actually, with our special announcement coming on, as well as the C3s. We did, apologies on missing the finish there for the C3s. We had a couple of attacks happening in here and can't catch everything while the attacks were happening at the exact same moment.
It got too crazy.
Well, it was the exact same moment that the finish was happening. It was like, what do we do? Where do we go? Where do we go? There's just a lot of racing happening all at once.
To your credit and Noah Balch's credit, how could you leave Noah's ride? That was just stunning to see a solo attack like that. They didn't even come close to catching him. Usually those things are down to a second or two. He still had 10 in the hand.
And here are the results. Dave, why don't you go take it away for us?
Hey, you bet, Nathan. So that's going to be Balch taking the win there. Brian Hodges ends up with the silver medal. You can see how just unbelievably smooth he is out there. 3.8 watts per kilo. It's going to be Anderson for the bronze, Outs for fourth, Wenham for fifth, Budge for sixth, Busain for seventh, Bogdan for eighth, Just for ninth, and then Schultes rounding out our top 10 today for the C1s. Again, congratulations to Noah Balch, the American, with an outstanding win. He certainly earned that with a well-timed attack. For the ladies,
like Vicky, she takes down just ahead of Madeline Leroux, which looks like Vicky 4.3 versus 4.9 watts per kilogram, maybe just keeping things a little bit cooler, was able to take that down. In with the C3s then, it looks like it is going to be at the top. It was Nussbaumer able to do the damage and get a only 0.1. It looks like he had a little bit, that's a little bit of a gap, but not, it does look like there was a group of four that were able to kind of get away in the sprint a little bit there with Squirrel, Miller, and EF. It's going to be Belant. I'd say our most aggressive rider on the day in this race, coming through for fifth place. Olsen there coming through for sixth. Wallback in seventh. Selby in eighth. It's going to be Lindquist in ninth. And Lecourt coming on through for 10th place in our C3s. And on the ladies' side of things, I think they're still hammering away out on course right now. We are going to be taking a short break. It is going to be about 20-ish minutes to the start of our next race. We'll take about a 15-minute pause here, everybody. It's with the Classics, something that we're changing up just a tad that might not be totally used to, but giving you guys a little bit of a chance to take a look over at WTRL, what's happening with the results, if you do want to, as they come on in. But Dave, that's really good racing out here today. The upset, I wonder if our apple cart's not going to stay together the rest of the day as well, because we predicted something very different, perhaps even in New Zealand as well as here in this race. And I thought Hodges was in the bag, but I mean, what WEZ are like, nah, we're showing up this season.
Yeah, I think if you want to sprint, you're going to have to be a little more attentive than our previous fields have been, to tell you the truth. Do a little more work to make sure that happens, because these late race attacks, they're no surprise, to tell you the truth. It's just how much are you going to invest in chasing them back? And again, That is bike racing. Makes it so much fun. It's unpredictable. And certainly the racers make the race. And to his credit, no Balch. That was one of the better rides that we've witnessed all summer long.
You're seeing Dan Pedroza coming on in over at the comments. Lots of comments actually coming through from Dan. He's really cheering Noah on, as well as the WEZ account is in here. So good to see you guys hanging out with us. We're going to be back in about 13 minutes or so for the Central European as well as the Western European after that. So don't go anywhere. We're going to put the tunes on. We'll be right back for our Central Europe for the London International Zwift Classics final race.
Let them see your perfect imperfections. Don't hide from bad feeling, 'cause they just want your words. I won't let them take me. No, I won't let them break me. No one on this earth can bring me down. Now I'm standing tall. I won't ever fall. imperfections. Don't hide from bad feelings, 'cause they just want your words, 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 words. Be who you want to be. Who do you want to be? Oh, 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 oh. Be who you want to be. Who do you want to be? Oh, 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 oh. Be who you want to be. Who do you want to be? Oh, 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 oh. Be who you want to be. Who do you want to be? Oh, 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 oh. Now it's their time. I will never fall. Concentrate on the tightrope. The hope that you'll make it through to the other side. Be who you want to be. Who do you want to be? Be who you want to be. Who do you want to be? Be who you want to be. Who do you want to be? Oh, 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 oh. Be who you want to be. Who do you want to be? Oh, 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 oh. Be who you want to be. Who
And we are back with Zwift Classics, last race number 8 in the Zwift Classics for the 2021 season. And we are in with the C0s, C1s, and C3s out there today with the new AutoCat system. Actually seeing some of the chatter coming on through, wondering if the AutoCat's going to be used in the future, as some people have really liked it. So great to see that it seems to be working out. And I was having a conversation actually with an athlete yesterday saying how excited they were about the AutoCat system, partially because in their mind, they didn't want to go to A's because they could never, ever, ever beat an A+. And so it was almost like they didn't want better fitness. Like it was like they didn't want to get to that level where they get thrown into A's. And I was like, that's not very good incentive. You want to be the strongest you that you can be, right? And if that means, you end up getting smashed though and can't even be participating in a race, really, that gets a little bit demoralizing. So AutoCat really fixes some of those kind of problems.
Hear a lot of folks say that about racing in the ZRL community divisions, where their team that they've got and the time zone, it's all where they like it. They don't want to be in Premier, but yeah, I can see where your friend is coming from, to tell you the truth, though. So, all right. Well, this course is fantastic. If you're expecting a sprint, hold your horses. You don't know what you're going to get out here. So far, we've seen some breakaways be. Well, it's been the name of the game out here today, Nathan.
Yeah, it has been. The breakaway situation's actually interesting, and that's really interesting to me that's been what's been happening here. As I really thought that things were going to be sticking together. But, I think it might be just no teams is one thing, and then perhaps just trusting the pack to bring a few of these late attacks back too easily.
It's interesting. Completely agree. The teams aren't quite as dominant in controlling things, but it is, if you look at it, most of the racers are racing as if they're anticipating a sprint. The groups have been large. If you look at the size of the fields coming into one to go, and again, we're going to be out here for somewhere between 33 and 39K, depending on the level that you're looking at. As Nathan mentioned, we've got some special guests joining us. So the C0s, the C1s, and the C3s. The C3s will be doing 5 laps, 6 laps for the 0s and the 1s. But Nathan, everything, the tea leaves, if you're reading them, says sprint, but these riders certainly, the riders that suits them, I should say, that don't want to wait around for a sprint, are using this nice little platform at about 3K to go to attack, and it's worked.
It has worked. It's been definitely the place to. Well, I think that initial kick over Whitehall, heading into then that turnaround, the 1K to goal banner, that section, I think people are just suffering a little more than they'd expected. That makes sense. And then next thing you know, somebody goes off the front and they're like, wait, I don't know if I can follow this and still sprint in a little while here. So that seems to be what's really upsetting things.
And that's the question you have to put in their mind, right? Is that they have to think, I have to save something for the sprint, and chasing this hard, I'm not going to be doing that. And that's been how the code has been cracked. That's for sure.
Yeah, we got about 30 seconds to the start here. We'll jump in with them in just a moment. As the C0s are going to be jumping out on course, we're going to notice something pretty interesting here, I think, in just a moment when it does come to a special announcement. We're just seeing if we can get some things set up here for our special guest here. Greg Abbott is going to be with us from Next Esports, and there is actually a little bit of a extra name thrown on to the back end of that, and we're actually really thankful that Next Esports letting us do this, but it looks to be that Next
Zwifty,
Esports,
right?
Yeah, so Next Esports now converging with Insured, coming together, two of the strongest teams in the world of esports are now coming together to make essentially a super team at the Premier Division level here. And so we're going to see a whole crew of Next Esports riders here out in this race actually in just a moment. And, I think they're kind of making their debut here out on course with us here on ZCL. We're going to get Greg here in just a moment. He's going to have plenty to say, I think, about what exactly is happening. And just a little bit of a chatter here, as we do see here, though, it is going to be their representation with Yell Power next, presented by Inshore. They will be using, it looks like, the next kit in game. That's going to be a swap up as well. Greg, are you with us here? I'm just going to double check and see. Greg, are you with us?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I've got
Can
you,
you hear me?
Greg. I've got you. Yeah, Greg
Awesome.
here jumping on in. We'll get Greg on camera here in just a moment. But I really appreciate you taking the time and letting us do this
Thanks for having
announcement
us. We're
here.
really excited.
Yeah, so you want to chat to us a little bit about how this ended up coming about? I
Yeah,
mean, this is two of
absolutely.
the biggest teams in esports, and I think you guys have been chomping at the bit to kind of show up and maybe put teams like Canyon and Pio
Yeah.
Auto on the back foot a little bit more, and you guys are attacking right off the bat to give a show, it looks like.
Yeah, it's going to be relentless today. So, expect it. So yeah, like this is really exciting for us. It's been a long time coming. So like you said, it's two really great programs that have come together to form this team. And what's important to us is that we didn't want it to just be like a hit crew of like really talented, strong guys that were just sort of like mercenaries. All right, like we were really cautious about how we would bring this together. Want to really kick the tires and make sure it was going to be a good fit when the prospects sort of came up. But really, it amounted to like both of these teams having like a very similar sense of commitment and a sense of how the game should be played, and wanting to race with integrity and like really caring a lot about the success of the team as a whole and not just being out for themselves. So it took a lot of planning, and a lot went into it in the back end, but we were able to merge our two teams. We've been having a lot of fun getting to know each other. We've been able to secure some new sponsors in the process, and we're coming out like looking forward to season 4 of ZRL. I'll say that.
Real quickly, so mentioning some new sponsors, that's something you want to highlight out here today. I mean, that's definitely a big. Dave, don't you think that's a big deal in the world of esports, Dave, when you have these
really
newer sponsors coming on in and being a part? It's showing support towards a new genre space there, Dave.
I would sponsor Greg, to be honest. So, Nathan, I'm not sure. Do you follow Get Zwifty on Instagram?
I actually do. I actually do follow Get Swifty. Yes.
So, Greg,
Well,
correct me if I'm wrong,
thanks,
but
guys.
that's you, right, my friend?
That is me.
Yeah,
that is me.
yeah.
I make goofy memes about bike racing as
they're
another
fantastic.
little thing I do.
Yeah, no,
Thank you.
I thought, Nathan, you would really appreciate. So Nathan is much busier than I am, Greg. So I in my leisure time, listened to podcasts, and I was listening to Nowhere Fast with Zach, and
Oh, no kidding.
I heard you on there, and I was really impressed by your depth of knowledge of esports racing, and I thought you made some fantastic points. I've co-opted some of those points myself, where I make it sound like I came up with those ideas, but it was really you. So, no, I'm a huge fan, Greg. So, like Nathan said, oh, there we go. Sorry, there.
Hi.
I was looking down at my notes, so I expected you to be much younger, Greg. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, don't let the gray hair fool you. I started graying pretty young. I'm 38. Like I'm not young, but
well, I love your story
Dave
about
might
getting
disagree
back.
with you.
That is, yeah, I think that's pretty young. But hey, so I love your story about getting back into esports and racing again during the pandemic. And as Nathan said, your team, this is really exciting. And to be honest, in typical Nathan fashion, he keeps secrets really well. If you ever have a secret, you can tell Nathan and he will not let you down. Because I did not know about this, the merger, I guess we'd call it, with Insured and Next. It's incredibly exciting to me. And let's talk about the sponsors, because I'm not kidding. So
Yes,
I don't know
let's
if
do it.
Ashton, yeah, please jump in. Let us know who's behind the program.
So, I mean, obviously, first and foremost, we have to thank Insured. They were, sponsoring the team on one half of this before everything came together. And for people who don't know, Insured is a company that helps startups and disruptive companies scale up their customer service capabilities. So they're highly involved in both this tech space, but more critically to us is that their founder is a passionate cyclist, and he has molded the sort of business ethos around teamwork and a common goal and the same sort of things that lead to success in cycling. So it was like a really natural fit where you brought both this digital world and the cycling world together. So it's the absolute perfect sponsor for an esports team, and they're really committed to the growth of the sport and wanted to be on the ground floor. And so that's the biggest and most important one for sure. But that's not the only ones we have. We're working with a company called Nations that works in the merchandising space for traditional esports. So that's helping us to learn a little bit more about growing into that area, and rather than the space where a lot of us were more comfortable in like the traditional cycling background. A big one for us is Wahoo came on as a sponsor for the team. So we're hoping we can get our in-game kit updated soon to reflect a lot of these. So, we're super excited to work with Wahoo. It's like one of the most trusted trainer brands out there. We also really like that it self-calibrates and it's just really reliable, and it's got great data coming in behind it. And that's, so critically important for a ZRL team. But then a bunch of other fun ones too. We've long worked with Kogel doing ceramic bearings, which when we've looked at dual recording data from them, you'd be surprised how big a difference it can make in Zwift. You can find yourself a few more percentage if you just have a really clean drivetrain and really, really smooth moving parts. You can find some watts that weren't there before. And then actually the glasses that I'm wearing are from an eyewear company called Gooder, and they're actually gaming glasses. So they're rubber grip so they don't slip while we're riding, and it keeps the fan from irritating you and blocks blue light for your eye health when you're spending a lot of time sitting in front of a screen. All those are really great. And then we're continuing to work with a clothing brand that is developing indoor specific kit for us. And as we develop the products, they're making them available in their custom line. So having like a great symbiosis with the brands that we've been working with, and hoping to keep growing that.
Wow.
How much? Yeah, wow is right, huh, Nathan? So I saw Nathan's eyes light up when you mentioned saving watts with the Kogel bearings. I have to say, yeah. So having the platform of ZRL in season 4 to step up and prove yourself against the best e-racers in the world, how important is that for your team?
Obviously we wouldn't have been trying to put together this team if that wasn't important. But what is most important to us is not just that we do it, but how we do it. We want it to be the right fit for everybody and to have like a really great team. And each side had like a real sense of community involved with their respective sides heading into this. And we didn't want to let that ever be at a detriment. So everything's been so fun to this point, like getting everybody together. Virtual happy hours, really starting to get to know who our teammates are, and trying to do this, globally. We're all over the place. Belgium, Czech Republic, Japan, the UK. We're from everywhere, and it's like really like it's surprising how well you feel like you get to know people when you're sharing a virtual space and not a physical space. It's been super fun.
Question. So, who are the riders? No, obviously this is a pretty big merger.
Yeah, well, some of them
we're talking about two of the esports teams now. Insured, they've been around a little bit longer than Next. They've been at that top level essentially since the first season of ZRL, and even a little bit before that. And then Next have really come on the scene in this last year, in conjunction with ZRL, and earn their way to the top. And all of a sudden it's like now these two teams that have like been absolutely dominant in their respective races coming together. You've got some huge hitters, some really well-known names here, part of this program.
Yeah.
Who made the cut?
It's like a roster. So we can name a few. So in the race today, right now, we've got Brian Duffy and Tom Thrall and Kiel Power. I'm trying to think of everybody. It's such a big list now. It's really an embarrassment of riches. Actually making our determination for that final roster is going to be the hardest decision we'll make all year. We have more guys
still
capable.
Not made. That's actually not made yet.
Not entirely. The rosters aren't due yet, and we got a lot of hard decisions to make. But that said, if we'll still be able to field some pretty strong community teams, and hopefully more than one time zone, even after we make those decisions, because everyone's on board with just making sure it's the best overall team it can be. And these seasons come quick. You guys know, we'll be able to rotate guys in and out, make sure anybody's injured, anybody's not feeling fresh, we can put our best foot forward all the time with this kind of depth.
I tell you what, that ability to rotate in riders, injury in real life demands. It's having those feeder teams, that pyramid, right? You have to build it up from the bottom is absolutely critical, it seems, to be successful in the ZRL. I have to say, it's great talking with Greg Abbott here. Brian Duffy Jr. might be the one rider to not sleep on for ZRL Season 4. Tell you the truth, I've had my eye on him for a while. What a huge talent! Yeah, I mean, he might be the one name that people aren't as familiar with as they should be, I'd say, Greg. But a name that I think everybody's familiar with now after setting the world record in the individual pursuit. Will Ashton Lambie be back with next?
If you flip over to C1, you'll see him.
You're kidding? He's out racing today.
He's out racing right now.
We buried. Have we buried this lead? Have we buried the lead well enough here? No. The fastest man in the world is.
He's had a bit of a hiatus from Zwifting, so the AutoCat didn't account for his real 20-minute power.
So AutoCat said that AutoCat looked at Ashton Lambie and said, ho ho, mediocre talent. Put him in with the C1, see how he does.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So what's happening with Mr. I want to ask what's happening with Mr. Duffy out here today, because this is not where I'd been expecting to see Brian Duffy.
I'm off our Discord, so yikes! Something must have gone. This must have been a technical mishap.
I did see a little bit. I did see a little bit of a frown. I did see a little bit of a frown on his face.
That's why we need the big roster. Things like that can happen.
I think I saw somebody who looked like the Hamburglar right behind him cutting his internet cable there. So, hey, Greg Abbott joining us here. Nathan, this is such an exciting I'm really pumped. The ZRL Season 4 coming up almost exactly a month from now for the community. But for as far as the big leagues go, this is a huge next presented by Insured. I'm going to have to get used to looking at that as we combine two super teams here. So, Greg, are you racing yourself?
I will be. I have my Zwifting space is currently undergoing some renovations, so I have to ride in the real world for a little while. But I'll be back at it. Probably America's East.
Nice.
So you're going to stick with the community then?
Yeah, I got a pretty good sprint, but I don't have the FTP to do these the ZRL Premier League. It's just a whole other level.
Yeah, it looks like your boys from the get-go have made this a very difficult race here. Bruce and Yell Power have been off the front, I think, essentially from the first climb into the square. So Kerr trying to come across. The rest of the pack, I think, are not loving this, because the reality is you do have Barry as well as Grasicki, Catanzaro all sitting in, and this can just be the 1-2 punches over and over again, it seems.
Yeah, what do you think, Greg? Your experience?
It's not a complicated strategy, but it's a good one.
So have you been surprised? I don't know if you've seen any of the races previously on the London Classic course that we've been racing on, but it's been late race breakaways, solo attacks that have won. Are you surprised to hear that?
A little not. Like it's hard with the AutoCats when you don't necessarily have the same crew that you might normally be with. But then you throw in these races where you expect it to go to a sprint, and you see this in real life too, where if somebody times their attack well, the gap opens, and if you're the one to close it, that your race is done. And so when you don't have a whole lot of teams, everyone is just sort of rolling the dice on somebody else doing the work, and that couple of seconds is all a good rider needs.
Yeah, that's been the case out here so far for sure. And again, these sprints make things tough for some of the guys at the back of the group. That's for sure right now. Is Nathan, we've got 39K. But Greg, thanks a lot for joining us, and thanks a lot for the really exciting news.
Guys, thanks so much for letting us announce it here. Like we've been, it's been hard to keep it under wraps. We've been chomping at the bit, and so we're just super pumped to be here today and to get to do this with you all.
Yeah, we're super excited. This is going to be, one other thing I was thinking immediately was giving the reality of Canyon Esports a run for their money. That's got to be a little bit of the motivation, I would think, as the last couple, how the first few seasons have gone. And also the way that you guys are coming into this race season, I think Next have been they're one of the most exciting teams, and now to just see this roster boost. Also, one other question here, on the streaming side of things, is there a push? Because I know that you're coming from a gaming background, bringing in Short in, and I do know a couple of the guys that in Short and how that program developed specifically out of with Nations and the esports that they're involved with already. And so, I'm wondering on that front, is there? I mean, James Barnes is now a major name amongst the streaming side of things when it comes to the Zwift world, obviously, but. Is that going to be a push as well to kind of get some of that that live streaming going?
Yeah, on the next side of things, like we didn't have we were fish out of water on that front. We didn't know where to get started, but now we have guys that have a lot more experience doing it, and we'll up our game for sure. So a lot to come. We're excited.
Super awesome. Well, super awesome. Looks like lots to come right now in the middle of the race as your team is off the front making moves. So, Greg, thanks a lot for jumping in with us.
Right.
Next Esports presented by Insured. You guys heard it here first, and we'll try and keep bringing more announcements like that as we head into ZRL. Greg, good luck to your team out there today. We'll keep an eye on them.
Thanks much, guys. Love what you do.
Cheers, Greg. Cheers, Greg. Thanks a lot for jumping in with us. Well, Dave, what an announcement out there.
That's
today.
really cool. Yeah.
I mean, wow.
I'm not kidding when I say I'm a fan of Greg Abbott's already as well. The Get Zwifty Instagram account is extremely funny. He's got a great sense of humor. Here's one of his teammates, Scott Catanzaro. Certainly always going to be a rider to watch. An embarrassment of riches. I'm not sure if it was you or Greg who said that, but that's what they're dealing with now. And I think for everybody who's following along in the ZRL, this is extremely exciting. You're right. Canyon is going to be, I'm sure right now, their group texts are lighting up as they're probably just getting the news. Unless maybe they had secret intel already. Pretty high level.
This is interesting. This move here from Catanzaro. I mean, he's got a solid gap at this point. And I think what's going to end up happening is, the first couple of attacks, okay, we'll cover, we'll trust, but you put enough of them off the front and you just tire the group out because they got to just do too much here. And one of these, I think, is just going to stick and there's going to be nothing that the group can do about it.
So which group is this?
It's going to be the C0s with Catanzaro off the front here.
Okay.
So Grzycki here looks like on the front a little bit. I think he's just slowing things down, actually. Now 7.7 for a second. No, it's going to be actually Vanden Eckart. Cryo RDT. Now we're almost getting a ZRL Season 4 preview at this point with Cryo RDT in this race. We've got BZR SPSD with the rear. We also saw Rose Beast Mode jumping in here as well. So, this is, obviously we've got plenty of the green and dark blue hammered away from Next here. But they're also getting a little bit of a taste of who's who amongst Beast Mode and Cryo RDT to try and cover some of these moves.
Yeah, I mean, there's some huge names. Obviously, with the announcement, Next must have asked everybody to show up. As you can see, that Thomas Thrall is out here racing today. He's going to be extremely dangerous. But I would think that Chell Power is the rider for the day. He makes 18 watts per kilo in his 15-second time. Scott is, right now, again, this team's just going to be attacking and attacking. You can see they've got numbers. It's quality and quantity with Next and Short right now.
Thrall, amazing, super strong rider here to be watching out for today. And this is one of the riders coming over from Insured into this lineup. That is a conversation to be had. You figure out who's who within a team. And then when you bring two big, super teams like this together, what ends up being the pecking order a little bit, who's got what kind of talents and what kind of ways, the communication. It did sound like they've done a really good job, though, of getting to know each other a little bit already, and that they have a good community, spirit over at Next. So, most likely going to be a lot of gelling within this.
A lot of times it's sort of that roller skate and a key thing where one team has some resources and another team has some talent, or it's a mix, it's a recipe. As we go back to picking up Scott right now and holding on to a 12-second advantage. So this just plays into their favor at this point, right at the midpoint of the race right now, but allowing Next and Short to sit back a little bit. The chase being really the pressure looks like being put onto Rose Beast mode and Christoph Daim.
Yeah, and
He's certainly
consistent here from Scott. Gamps now giving a little bit of a kick, looking to be first across the line. Perhaps no, and that's not going to be going anywhere. It looks like as well. Maybe Gamps is going to take that. Excuse me. 1 second there. Crowdy T coming on through with Polly. Polly might nip it at the line. It's going to come really close, and he does do just that. Gamps fades for second. Theme tried to take it down for that third across the line here, but we still have Cut Nazaro off the front, and they're going to slow right on down after that sprint unless there's a counter. The next rider, Zavislan, maybe going. No, they're going to just shut it down, and next they're just going to keep the control on. Anybody rolling through his speed here, they can see Scott just up the road. Will they shut it down, though? If I were next, I would be doing just that.
Well, that's their teammate that's up the road, so they're just moving to the front to get positioning.
Yeah, I think heading to the front there and just throwing down a steady 3.0, I think was the plan. But it does look like...
Well, forcing other teams to... Yeah, I mean, right
you can
now...
Just slow it down, so you can close the door in Zwift. So in Zwift, you can head to the front and just do 2 watts per kilogram after hitting the front, and it just shuts the speed right on down. But Scott is going to get caught, it looks like. And will there be a counterattack? And there it is. Bruce comes on through with an invisibility power up actually around the corner. This is a really good timing for him to have that invisibility. Get that little bit of a gap. 48 kilometers around. Watch it slow right on down. 34, 33. And then right out of the corner, 7.5 watts per kilogram. Let's see how quickly he gets up to speed. 34 from here. And we can see 40 already here from Bruce. So he's going to start getting a gap. Anybody going to follow? And it's almost like the pack is like, what are we going to do about this? Next is just continually to put the hurt on.
Yeah, as they will. I mean, this is just the steady grind that you're going to witness here. There is no question that Next will operate at a very high level, and what they're doing. As soon as Bruce is brought back into the fold, that's Mark Bruce there out of the United Kingdom for Next. As soon as they bring him back, there'll be another Next rider attacking. It'll be relentless, methodical, to tell you the truth.
The Relentless, it's funny, the Relentless name, I think originally Next came from a Relentless team named Relentless. So it's good to see that being used a little bit here, and that Bruce is making things happen. Now it looks like Barry is trying to go across, perhaps, interesting enough. Richard Barry on a little bit of a kick, and it looks like he is going to be able to get across. And now they're going to have 2 riders, and that's what they need. That's a good call, I think, Dave, to try and really make this happen, not just leave one rider out there dangling alone, but if they can work together, and then the rest of the next team can just control the pack and follow the moves.
Yeah, it's interesting. Not exactly sure what their tactic is going to be here. Putting pressure on other teams is what they're doing, regardless of how many riders are up the road, whether it's 1 or 2. I don't think it greatly increases the chance of this break working or not working, for that matter.
Let's see if we can jump across to a couple of the other categories out here today, as we do have the C1s as well as C3s out on course. And Next has shown up with quite a few riders, actually, in the C1s, it looks like. So they've got quite the representation today.
So this is our C0s that we have on the screen right now.
Correct.
Looking at our leaders here as they dangle a few seconds, actually moving up to 5 seconds off the front. So I think the story of the day, Ashton Lambie racing with us in the C1s. I'm going to jump over there, Nathan, or?
Let's see if we can get there working. That's exactly what I'm working on at this moment.
Gotcha.
have it looks like a pretty solid group in that race. We're just seeing if we can get it on camera here in just a moment. And as we do, we'll see if we can find Ashton out on course as well, as I believe he is in and amongst the
So while you're doing
ones.
that, I can explain that Ashton Lambie, for those that aren't following along with international cycling, just at a course, a velodrome in Mexico, Agua Calientes, the hot water velodrome, set the world individual pursuit record with a 3-minute 59-second and some change time, first man or woman to ever go under 4 minutes. History was made, certainly. And Ashton, who's been racing with the next team, and it's been really, really fun having him out there. It's just incredible when you think about the fact what this man is doing in real life. The fact that we've had him out racing on Zwift as well has been really, really fun. And I will be honest, I'm surprised that we've already got him back out here on Zwift, but Ashton is irrepressible, that's for sure. And this is Ashton Lambie that we're looking at right now. Good job, Nathan.
Yeah, I think he's out for a cruise today. I think he's showing up for the team. As we, he did take a little hiatus, it sounded like, after that new world record. So good to see him out here representing, and definitely no joke when it comes to this new roster. And some of his other teammates, Matt Main, actually a pickup as well for the next esports team. You had spoken a little bit about this rider, actually, Dave, I think a couple weeks back, being on the watch out for him.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, I haven't seen the entire roster. This is the first time I've seen Matt's name on the new squad here. So they're going to have a hard time whittling this down to 6 riders. That's for sure.
Caleb Carl in the race here for Skylab. That's one rider that is going to be challenging, I think, on the day for sure. He's done an amazing job here in the classics. It does look like there's still a short kid out there today. So maybe not grabbing the memo, or maybe it didn't change on my end. Now, Yasim is here, Dave. And I mean, if there's anybody who can challenge on the day, is this going to be our top sprinter, I believe, so far in these classic races. And he's been absolutely dominating if he's able to make it to the sprint. One of my goals out here today in the C1s would be to get rid of Hasim for sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure what happened last week with Hasim, to tell you the truth. But if he's there in the group that goes to the line, he's been pretty close to unbeatable, to tell you the truth. So this is our C1s that we're in with now. I believe this is C1s. It is, yeah. So they're pretty deep into the race, to tell you the truth. This C1 group doing 39K or 6 laps out here on the London Classique course as well.
And it does look like it seems going to show us.
What happened to that little?
We
had that little thing down in the bottom that would tell you what the which category we were looking at.
Yeah, it took a little break for a moment, and
it took a break.
It'll be back in just a moment. It's literally the next thing on Nathan's list. So Jay Young here, VCRT now coming on through. Solid little kick from him. Interesting setup here, as it looks like maybe it was a drop situation, didn't have the 800K, or a little bit of a change up, as he's got the next fastest, the old school fastest, Venge S-Works. So I'm not going for the full on Cervelo S5 setup. And perhaps just looking to gain a couple of extra drops at this moment to grind out that last little purchase. Or perhaps he likes riding the S-Works out there. Not too much of a Cervelo fan. That may be it as well. As far as who can challenge on the day out here today for the sprint, I think next are really going to want to show up. Now, at this level, though, and the C1s, I think there's also just a reality that there's some big hitters as well that are just as hungry. And I would not, Caleb Carl, Asim, next they're going to have the work cut out for them still, I think, in and amongst this crew.
VCRT, the Doggos, James Young, Zach Nair. Also, I haven't had a chance, as we are looking at 3 different categories here. There's Matt Main again up near the front, but there he is, Zach Nair, in this group. Zach was phenomenal last week, actually. Back-to-back podiums out here. Now, a course that maybe doesn't suit Zach as much as some others, but not bad, to tell you the truth, and certainly a rider that you'd always want to keep an eye on. Also part of this next presented by Insured Armada that we're identifying. And there you go, the Eastern Europe C1s that we've got on screen. Front group, big group, not a surprise. Typically, though, today we've seen late race escapes successfully going to the line. It only works so many times, but you have to wonder, how's this one going to play out? We're getting down to it here.
Go ahead and jump on over to the C0s real quick, as we've got a big name, somebody who a lot of the community members are definitely going to be excited about being off the front. And it is going to be no other than Barney with the new pickup coming on over. He was on the innovation team for quite a long time. This is an amazing pickup, James Barnes. 5
Who
seconds
don't
off the front,
they have
5.6 watts per kilogram. I mean, yeah, right? I mean, it's almost like they picked up everyone who is in the community that's not Canyon or PO Auto. That's not, or you know what I mean? It's just this huge
It's a
amazing.
super team, that's for sure. I mean, what an incredible roster they must have. This is a game-changing moment for the ZRL, that's for sure. James Barnes, another massive talent here.
Yeah, and 8 seconds off the front now. This is a rider that a lot of times wins the TTTs, or is at least in the top 3. So you know that this rider can hold a steady 5.5 to 6 watts per kilogram for the duration of the next 10 kilometers or so. 10 to 12 kilometers off the front at that kind of an effort. It's going to be a big ask here, but this might be the moment where they've whittled down the ability of the rest of the riders. Contenders now going at 12 watts per kilogram with an invisibility power up. They can't actually see him, so they won't see a response from that immediately. This is a good move again. I would not want to just leave one of my riders off the front like this without any help. Barnes getting some help here from Contenders would be absolutely perfect. And, even if I think Barney is maybe a little bit stronger rider than Scott as far as the pure FTP type rider, and getting the assistance still from Scott, and then maybe launching him a little bit further up the road with some solid pull-throughs and just working together to get as much speed as they possibly can. This is the way to go, and it's time to just settle into two-man team time trial mode.
Yeah. Wow. So, I mean, I have a feeling that, I don't know. So is Greg Abbott working as the team's PR director? Or I'm not sure how they reached out to you, but clearly they assembled all of the guys and asked them to show up and make a statement today. And that's exactly what Next, presented by Insured, is doing. It's almost like they could win this race 3 different times here.
Yeah, I mean, they've absolutely stacked the field out here today, and this looks like a big.
They're going to put solo riders, I mean, they're going to put 2 riders off the front together. That's almost unheard of.
Merely making a statement. If you're if you're Canyon Esports or you're PO Auto and you're, or Sars the Pros Closet as well, I mean, you sit back and go, okay, a little bit of a threat going on here. This is quite the announcement. We've got something to work with. Or do you think they're like, okay, come on. This isn't, is it too much hype? And we can handle this. I mean, it's not like Canyon is sitting around not, twiddling their thumbs either. I mean, we did see Lionel Viasen jump back in and just absolutely dominate. Like it wasn't even a question. It was a solo rider. You didn't have an entire team. It wasn't a stacked field, and Viasen walked away. So, I mean, you still are talking about some of the most experienced, strongest riders in the world that this team is going to still have to come up against. And some of these riders, being new to Premier Division, are they going to come in and go, oh, I'm dominating, I'm at that top level, or is it going to be a little bit of a kick in the teeth? Like, whoa, we can stack the team, but at the same time, you still got to deal with the likes of, the Duck and the likes of that kind of quality of rider.
I think they're ready, to tell you that. I mean, I think the real winner here is going to be us, the fans of the sport.
Oh, another team I didn't mention there is Rose Beast Mode as well. That
right.
Kind of,
I mean,
in there.
Yeah, Christoph Thiem and company, right? And there's no doubt that the level's going to go up, but I don't expect that Rose Beast Mode or Canyon, they're not shaking in their boots. I think that they're excited for the challenge. I really do believe that. And it's going to be quite a challenge. That's for sure.
Yeah,
That green and black jersey.
It's a really good point, actually, is that they're, upping the level altogether is only going to make things better for the sport. And this is a great move by Gamps. Really good move. It's about 10K to go. If he can get involved, I mean, if there's any train you want to be on off the front right now, it's going to be that next train.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like you almost have to be willing to put yourself one rider with two next riders in a breakaway to have a chance to win this race today. Well, operating from a disadvantage is the only place you can operate when you've got a team like this just all over the front, and they're throwing body blow after body blow out here with some very strong, like Gamst and Theme are two of the two names that you hear week in, week out at the very, very highest level, but they're going up against a squad of monsters out here today. And I mean, when you look at it, Thomas Thrall, he's going to be there, but Brian Duffy Jr. is waiting in the wings to absolutely crush this finale that's coming up in 2 laps now. So we're down to 2 circuits here in the London Classique course for our Central Europe group.
Grasicki and the likes of the rest of the next eSport team, they're trying to essentially just put all of their team members off the front with these punches, and they are getting the gaps here, it looks like. And I mean, they eventually might just form a small breakaway peloton at this point, which just is essentially dominated by the entire next team. As Catanzaro Barnes still at 5 seconds, this is going to come together, it looks like, for at least this breakaway situation. Grasicki being followed quickly here by Wood. They are going to whittle the pack a little bit.
Yeah,
what do you think about this here? Is there going to be a counter, perhaps?
No. By who?
I mean, some of the other next riders,
unless you're talking about the
riders.
next team.
Yeah. The next
Right,
team will counter this right here somewhere.
Yeah,
they need to be going now, I would think. Otherwise, it was all for naught.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not. When I say by who, it's like, look, there's only so much you can do right now, and with next just barraging the front of this race. I mean, if you're Gamst or Christoph, it's just too much.
Look at it's just 1, 2, 3.
They've got
5,
8
6,
riders
7, 8,
in a 12-rider
right
group, and they're aggressively attacking. I mean, so. Yeah, I mean, realistically, you just got to white knuckle this thing to the finish. I mean, okay. I'm not saying it's not fair, right? But this is not your standard bike race scenario to have a team this strong with this many riders in a front group. So to be fair, then. I'm going to turn the tables on the next insured team. This is not, if they don't win this race, they should be embarrassed.
Oh, it's putting it out there, boys. You better get moving.
Well, you know they're going to. You know they're going to.
They got to keep making. I mean, they've got 7Ks, so a lap and a half to go. If they bring it to the line, and there could be a rider for the upset when it comes to the sprint if he follows wheels correctly here, right? So Gamp's looking to give a little bit of go. Bruce off the front now. Wood as well from Innovation, trying to follow Bruce at this point. So this is going to be a situation. We do have a comment coming on through here for cheering on next. And Lovin Barry, he's the poor man's Matt Gardner. Now we've got people naming people after other Zwift racers, which is cool to see. Loving that. And agree with the comments. The bars continue to be raised. Ray Gunner is saying, through WTRL and ZRL, this season will be the bomb. Appreciate the comments there. This is Revolution, guys. We're hearing from Debbie and Shape. And Fast Life is like, what's going on here? Why'd you let the third next rider go? I don't know. What's up with that? I have to agree with you. They need to they get a little more organized on this. I mean, they've been real good about it so far. Now it's like, what's the plan with a lap and a half to go? We haven't gotten anybody off the front. Are they setting up for a sprint? I mean, Grasicki is one of the strongest sprinters I've ever seen in the world of Zwift racing, and he has shown up out here today. Are they just going to, set? I think Greg Grasicki is going to be sitting in a lot, and they're going to maybe send a couple more.
Well, I'll put this out there. Does Next sweep the top 3 spots in this race? Do they go gold, silver, bronze, or is someone able to disrupt that? Because even that is a big ask, and Michael Gamst would be someone who's up to it, to that
Gamst off the
challenge.
front. He's gonna I think tease out a next rider here. Christoph Thiem, I think, is a rider to watch out for to upset the entire apple cart. I think
that's the
Rose
best
Beach Road rider is just
That's
a
your
piano to
best
watch
bet.
out. Yeah.
I would agree with that 100%. And it is, I mean, this is interesting when you look at how a team can dominate a bike race. Right now, the tactic here, if you're next, is absolutely let one of the 2 most dangerous riders that you've got, let them dangle off of the front. I would expect that it's not a bad situation because we're still 7K from the finish right now. Well, yeah, let's call it 6K from the finish right now. There's very dangerous Canadian, Thomas Thrall.
Yeah, here from what we're being told, Michael Egan says he expects Brian Duffy Jr. to clean his bottles already. So there may be some infighting happening over at the team. Obviously, a joke here, but we're hearing
They're one half of one race into it, and there's already infighting. I don't even know what that means. I've been around cycling my entire life, and I don't know what that means. Expects him to clean his bottles.
Well, I mean, the recovery drinks straightforward.
Like he'd be a soigneur?
Yeah, soigneur. Yeah.
Right.
Prediction from Chris Koch. Next riders will blow by it in a counter attack. Might be a good.
I would agree with that.
Michael Gamst doesn't even care, and I'd have to agree with that as well. It seems like he's like, I don't care how many next riders you throw in here. I'm just going to continue right on pressing the pace, and he's doing just that with 1 lap to go. He's still got 2 seconds off the front. Cryo DT trying to shut this down, it looks like, with a couple of riders going. Nobody jumping across, though. It has, all of these attacks have really whittled down this pack at this point, though. So we do see Brian Duffy Jr. He did have a mechanical, so just hanging out the 17K to go mark instead. Too bad to see. He would have been a major threat in the final. Again, as I said, Grzycki has not really put his nose in the wind too much, so I think Greg Grzycki, watch out for him in the final sprint. I would not be surprised one bit if we had a couple of attacks, though, into the final lap here from next, trying to set up some chases, which would then give Grzycki a free wheel to ride. We'll see how that plays out, though.
All right, 34K in. You can see the green and black jersey from next, like killer hornets right now, sort of swarming around. It looks like, is that Michael attacking again? So Michael's going to counterattack his own attack from earlier. They brought Gamst back. He goes again. Cryo's going to try to cover this time, though, with Van den Eyck.
I'm loving how aggressive, this Michael Gamst has been in this Central Europe C0. He just continues to put the pressure on. It looks like the workhorses are going to be Bruce and Barry at this point as Grzycki sits in.
So, I mean, if you want to win this race, though, as a solo rider, I don't know that you're going to put too much pressure on a 7-rider group here. Like next, I don't know that he's doing too much damage to them.
No, I have to agree with that. You know who's getting a lot of benefit?
But he's doing a little more damage to himself than to them, I'd say.
One rider who I think has been getting a lot of advantage at this point is going to be Christoph Thiem. He's been sitting in pretty well and 100%. Just following the wheels.
That's the way you play your cards, right? I would say. Try to counterattack off of if there is a late race attack from the next guys. It looks like they're happy to wait for a sprint for Thomas Thrall right now.
That's a great call by Dave Ranson as well. KISS Racing Team. This is the man who helps set up the KISS 100 each and every week as well. Great to see him jumping in, and I think he's got a good eye on things. Thrall is who they're looking to set up, not Grzycki. And didn't Thomas Thrall win the first ZRL race? Am I
Yeah, no, that's what I was just saying right as that came up. Absolutely, Thrall's the guy in my mind here. Next likes the situation they're in. Just covering moves right now. Mark Bruce has had a great ride today. Done a good job for the team.
The question on getting the win, though, right? So you get in a situation like this, and if you're in the team car and you're thinking, we've got Bruce up the road with 2 other riders, are they confident that he can take down those two other riders? Or do you
No,
want
because
to
they know that that's not. They'll chase that back. They're not going to sprint with Bruce. That's not what they're here to do.
Exactly. That's what I was thinking. Is will they just bring this back and maybe counter
Bruce
with
is
a rider
just
to
a
send them
placeholder.
solo?
He's just covering. Mark Bruce is just covering that move for right now, and that's already becomes a non-story. We've moved on.
100%. Whitebeard now to the front. He's been a super aggressive rider, now backing right on off. This is the final time over the top of Whitehall. We'll see how this ends up playing out here. James Barnes now. Watch out for him.
This is where, so if you're next, this is where you start moving the final chess pieces around on the board here. If you're going to establish a checkmate, you're going to attack with one rider or even two now. But you're going to string this out at this point, and then you're going to come over the top of that, and then that should be good enough.
Grasicki to the back, 177 beats per
This'll
minute.
be good.
He's suffering a little bit. Who's ramping things up? Again, it's Bruce
There you
here.
go.
Gamps goes again. He just continues to put the pressure on. I love this guy. He just says, I don't even care. Shut up, legs. This is classic right here.
Well, there's nothing else you can do, right? When you're in between a rock and a hard place here, he's not going to sit back and wait and sprint against Thomas Thrall, so he's got to do something, and I love it. This is the spirit of a racer right now. Michael Gamps is going to put it into the gutter.
Very solid.
And he's going to open up a little bit of an advantage here, and this is where...
Oh, and even using his arrow power up. I mean, this is all in. Full on all in. Catanzaro goes to the front and looking to... and he just all he has to do is set this 5-4. It doesn't even have to be a serious effort. Now Bruce coming on through at 6.5, 47 kilometers per hour. Seeing, now 49. Gamps also matched there, same speed, and Bruce is just going to keep this high enough that it's going to be too difficult, I think.
This will go down as the ride of the summer if Gamps can hold them off right now. I mean, how can you not be pulling for the Danish rider Michael Gamps here? It'll be absolutely
look at this train. Look at this train.
I was saying, can they go 1, 2, 3? Can they go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 out here today? It's entirely possible. As here we go, they've made the catch. So the Lion has roared right now. Next insured is gone. Watch this display of power. They're at 1K to go.
All right, now this is one thing you got to watch out for. Look at where Christoph Thiem is sitting at the back. We see Wood from Innovation here as well, but they've already gotten this organized at the front. They've got a gap a little bit here, and they're just sending rider after rider, trying to just ramp up this lead out. I've never seen that. I have literally never seen the likes of this kind of a lead out. Next, presented by Insured, really trying to set things up. Is it going to end up biting them in the tail, though, at the end of this, with any of these other riders getting the lead out as well with them? Thrall here coming on through 9.7 watts per kilogram. Thrall hasn't even come close to opening up, but will he find himself in the front too quickly? Yell Power now coming on through. This is going to be the situation here. The Belgian rider, 14 watts per kilogram, looking to set up the rest of his team, but De Veer from oh my gosh, BZR with the upset.
My gosh,
is it going to happen?
Incredible.
BZR to the line. No, Thomas Thrall, 16 watts per kilogram at the final moment. No problem. Does look like Cryo DT takes
I don't know
second.
if I'd say no problem, but that was awesome there by De Vries. I was saying that if they didn't get the win, it would be embarrassing. It was close. That's the spirit there from BZR. So even with an incredibly dominant team doing so much work, it shows you still have to close out the deal. Wow. But that was next. That's going to be a recurring theme for the next few months here. Next Insured making a statement today.
Making another statement, 1K to go. This is going to be the C1 category now. And as it is going to be Duval off the front. This was a move we saw actually earlier today. Very similar. 8 watts per kilogram, 54 kilometers per hour. It looks like Muller from Canyon just has no response whatsoever. And Race 3R on the front, nothing, no response. The rest of the next rider is just going to be sitting in. Zach Neer starting to ramp up his sprint as it's not going to affect his teammate here. And I think that Duval, with 3 seconds, Dave, is he going to hold on? He's fading a little bit, 7.6. They're coming on very fast. This is going to be right to the line. R3R, maybe be able to make this happen. Here comes the rest of the next crew. Is it going to be next to the line? Yohasim, next does it. They did it with Matt Moan and Simons. Oh my gosh, they're just sweeping all the podiums today. They beat
Yikes.
Yassim. They beat Yassim to the line. That's unheard of almost
Yeah, that's
when it comes to these
unheard
sprints.
of. Well, next has arrived, folks. The green and black. So that's 2 out of 2 wins here. COs and C1s. Yikes.
Absolutely. Yikes is where it's at here. Let's go ahead and see if we can get a little bit of a replay actually on how things played out as we saw a awesome lead out. This I'm going to back this up pretty good here because this lead out started all the way from the 1 kilometer to go banner. I mean, look at this. This is so organized, and they're just absolutely dominating every spot that you could take up. And they started ramping up at about 8 watts per kilogram really early on, catching riders out to have to put in big digs. Now, the Cryo RDT rider who ends up being very well positioned, watch the Cryo RDT. Very well done. You also mentioned De Vere.
That's
from
Van den
BZRSP.
Eickhout. Yeah. Yeah. So they certainly stood up, just by quietly staying back in that group and weathering the storm. That's the BZR rider. Outstanding job here of putting some real pressure on Thomas Thrall, who was patient and strong enough to end up holding on for the win here. But that blue jersey looked very dangerous late in the race here.
Yeah, I thought maybe. I mean, look,
The thru.
that's 100 meters to the line. He's got the lead. And Thomas Thrall, though, at 16 watts per kilogram, he kicked at the perfect time. He actually got a little bit of a gap, about 2 bike lengths with that perfect timing from him. That just shows experience. But a Cryo DT coming through in that second place, it looks like. So that's no joke to take that down amongst the rest of that next crew. They were able to nip the win, but it definitely wasn't a sweep there, Dave.
Well, and to be honest, a sweep is a big ask, and really that's what you're here for, is the first rider over the line, and they got that done. And Thomas Thrall, that's what you're looking for. That's for sure. Thomas Thrall delivers plenty of pressure. Team did a lot of work to set that up.
We will be jumping in with the C1s and C3s for our next race in just a moment. We've got the Western Europe making this happen. We did just see a sprint as well coming in from the C1s. Let's go ahead and bring that on in. Take a look at how that ended up playing out. And then if you do looking for some results, Duval tried to hold on here, Dave, unable to do so. And it was almost a big upset, with the reality of what Next was bringing to the table out here today. But it did look like Matt Main and Simons go and show us why the signing of those riders was really important.
So this is the C1 finish that we just watched, right? Yeah, with Hassan Hassim.
I think he got nipped by both the riders there, Simons and Matt Main. Made it happen. So solid effort there coming on through with them.
All right.
Just plenty of other riders bringing it in behind them. Let's go ahead. We're going to take a quick break, everybody. We'll take a look at the results when we can. If you want to check on over to WTRL.racing for the results, you can go ahead and do so. We've got about 6 minutes to the start of our next race. We'll be back at the start of the race. 6-minute quick little break here, everybody, and we will see you for our Western Europe in just a few as we get set up for our next stream. Big announcements, Next Esports. We actually didn't catch a website from them. We should have, so people can go check that out. But don't go anywhere. We'll be here for our final race for our coverage in the Zwift Classics, London International, in just about 5 minutes. Well, we are back and we are in with the London International. It looks like race number 8. And we're jumping in with the C1s and C3s as quickly as we possibly can here. The C1's just about to take off the line, actually. I think we're going to get in here just barely as 4 seconds to go and just finding ourselves in the event. I'm hearing that looks like yeah, we're able to jump on in here. I'm actually seeing Anna Zwift Racer is jumping into one of our chats here, and it's good to see her getting up. And after a long evening of broadcasting, always good to see. And with the C1s though, with this final race, Dave, the name of the game out here today hasn't necessarily been sit around and just wait for the sprint. It seems like it's been very difficult to play that tactic, actually, to just follow wheels. None of these races have actually ended up being very much of a just wait around situation.
Yeah, that what we just saw from the Next Insured team was a good example of how a team can try to dominate a race, but it comes down to sheer will at the end. I mean, Thomas Thrall had to dig really, really deep, even though the team did a lot. And that really speaks to the pressure that a sprinter on a team has after the team does so much to control the race and set the table. It's still hard to win. They didn't just roll that front group. The riders that remained, De Vries, for one, on BZR, was within a heartbeat of upsetting Next there. So it shows you, even with a really strong team, it's still incredibly complicated to win bike races at the highest level. So this course is fun to race on, no doubt about it.
Would have been quite the upset too if that would have went down. I mean, with
that would have been
riders,
huge. I wasn't kidding when I said that Next would have been embarrassed if they didn't win that race. I mean, when you've got that much firepower and you're that dominant, to walk away with anything but the win, you're going to be. I mean, there are some stories of team directors. If a team in its situation where they're that dominant, if they don't win, the team doesn't get dessert that night. That's for sure.
A good way to put it. A little bit of chatter happening here in our C1s, and with our C1s right now, they definitely. I think there's a mountain bike actually in here. Now I'm not sure if that's just on the client side here at this point, but somebody looks like either didn't make the swap or perhaps it's just on our end here. Morrison here though, it's going to be our lone woman rider. It looks like. But it does look like the Swedish rider has
Nathan, who
made this happen. It's going to be Clayson, I think, who's looking to try and make this happen on the MTB.
For someone who doesn't race on Zwift, Nathan, describe how hard that would be to race on an MTB in this scenario. How much of a disadvantage are you at?
Oh, that's a good question. I want to get like super technical, but I mean, the rolling resistance that's added here is massive rolling resistance. I mean,
because would it be comparable to in real life?
Yes, I think it would be very comparable actually to in real life as far as the differences in the rolling resistance and the kind of wattage you'd have to push in order to just hang on.
So honestly, it'd be the kind of thing. It'd be the kind of thing that, I mean, if all things equal, if you're athletically at that level, even trying to do this for more than 5 or 10 kilometers out there racing a mountain bike with a bunch of guys on road bikes, you're going to start to really feel it. You're having to do 5-7% more work because of your bike, which is an astronomically large number.
Yeah, gonna be
it really starts,
especially when the moves are made too. When the moves are made, those high speed jumps, it's just that much more.
And you're so non-aerodynamic. You see the rider right there is in the blue jersey, right in the middle of the group, just like a sail compared to the, how much wind you're taking on your chest there.
Look at how many
just looking to get an
actually
extra workout.
So many riders have picked up this new setup. Anna was saying she was really like to see the change up here a little bit, where it's not just all Trons or all Venge S-Works now. Now, a lot of people who did have the Venge S-Works, it does look like, have jumped on over to the Cervelo. But so I think over time, though, we are going to see the packs absolutely dominated by the Cervelo S5, especially on these flatter courses, as it is a TT type or speed machine versus a climber. It's definitely not the climbing bike, that's for sure. But on a course like this, the perfect setup is going to be that S5 2020.
All right. So just to lay out the course for you today, we're in London, 6 laps for this group. This is our C1s. We'll be in with our C3s as well today. They're doing 5 laps for 33 total kilometers of racing. Story of the day, this is a good look at the London Classic course, the final of 8 of our Zwift Classics. It's been a great run that we've enjoyed over the last couple of months. You can see here that there's not that much vertical gain, but there's enough. When you look at 154 meters, though, it's not a big impact on the day. It's really the racers that are making the race out here, as they, again, you see 6 laps on this course to make up for 23.7 miles of racing. So that's a good look at the circuit out here today.
No moves just as they head into the finish of the lead-in, the 4.3 kilometer mark. Well, actually, excuse me. I didn't notice Griff is off the front. WLC are making a little bit of a move. Apologies there. Hortvik trying to shut it down. Perhaps they're just keeping things steady at the front. 3.5 now.
I see.
Interesting comment.
Caleb Carl's back.
Yeah, double header here from Caleb.
Which is, we've seen him do triple headers, right? So this is just another day for Caleb. Nothing to write home about, but certainly Caleb's a great story of someone who we've talked about that in previous broadcasts, but has been through quite a lot over the last few months and showing some remarkable recovery, healing abilities. So it's great to see Caleb back and already at the sharp end of the group out here. Typically, they've whittled it down out here, Nathan. The group has certainly not remained with the full start list.
Yeah, Bagensky from WLC is in here today. Rider to be watching out for. WLC crew, I think, is the Wahoo Lacole crew. Oxley is here as well. It looks like we've got Harms from WLC. So we've got that plenty of jerseys in here. Harms actually using a little bit of invisibility power up as we jump on his avatar here. 13 watts per kilogram real quick.
That's how you do it. A good example of how you use that to your advantage is the Wahoo Lacole rider there pops up out of invisibility and he's off the front with a nice little gap of a second where they can't sit on his wheel. That was actually perfectly executed there.
I wonder if Carlick's going to have enough. He's got 13 watts per kilogram. He does. Aero power up just a little bit too strong. Harms almost holds on. It does look like he is going to take second, so he does get rewarded a little bit for his effort. Veritas, the team that we've been talking about a lot. Nunez here now pulls on through, and this is one of the new teams to be watching out for the Zwift Racing League and the community side of things. Coming out of Portugal.
That was Jacek. Jacek Karlik was the rider there out of Holland. Very, very strong as he burst across the line there first, picking up our sprint points along the way. I guess it really is the sprints. Sprints have been doing the damage out here for the most part. You'll see a few riders getting tailed off and fighting their way back in.
Yeah, it is true. It is the sprints a lot of times, and then just the other section, of course, around the corner over at the climb through the hall. So a lot of times those pushes through do split things up a little bit, put some pressure on the field. If you are trusting of this field, though, throughout the entirety of the race, I mean, and it does come back in each and every time, you can get a fairly free ride all the way through to the line. Now, with a smaller pack like this is a little bit less participation, I'd say, in the Western European. This does provide more opportunity because there's not as much firepower to bring you back.
I agree. You're going to really want to sit in the first half of this group, aren't you? Sitting near the back, there's going to be splits that open up, you would imagine, when they do exactly what they're doing right now, start applying the pressure here. You can see how there's that delayed effect where now all of a sudden the guys in the middle of the group are going to start scrambling to get on a wheel and then see how it's working its way back through the group until the guys at the back all of a sudden are going to start looking at little gaps opening up. As we have, again, this is our C1s that we're in with. Nathan makes a good point, though, about this smaller group. You are a little more exposed. You're going to be doing a little more work. You can see a few of these Wahoo LaCole jerseys out here. Looks like they're the dominant team in this group.
Yeah, I think Wahoo Cole, nothing like what we saw with the next Esports just a moment ago, but definitely have the advantage.
We probably won't see something like that again this year. I wouldn't think that the next the show of power that we witnessed.
Team CLS do have a few in here, standards in here as well, telling us that we shout out the mountain bike. Yeah, we definitely noticed that the MTB was there. There was a comment coming through saying that maybe not going to actually be on an MTB. We'll have to wait and see if this is what is actually being written. We could actually check within the companion app to see. It does tell you in the companion app who or what the rider is on, actually live in game. Team CLS though, with it looks like at least 4 riders, so I wouldn't count them out. Looking at the green and black kit there, watch out for them.
Oh, there we go.
Moving away to the front now. Swart, it looks like from dirt, a little bit of a punch. Oliveira. Now out of Portugal, Oxley as well, and 5 watts per kilogram real quickly here. Not nearly the kind of numbers that we've seen for any of the attacks. So it looks like this group is definitely thinking a little bit more about the more traditional sections of this course to try and make anything happen.
So this is our C3s that we're in with now?
C1s for Western
C1s.
Europe.
Okay. So I don't see Oliveira on my start list, which is odd. The Portuguese rider. Oh, well, all right. Australian Hump Day Ride is the team for Hordvik here. Big group
I'll double
together.
check and make sure. You may be correct there, Dave. I have a feeling that this is, though.
No, I don't know. It's been a little tricky.
I'll double check and make sure that we're in with the correct category, but
Oh, no, there he is. I got him. Rui Oliveira. No, you've got it correct there. The Veritas rider out of Portugal. So we're in with our C1s. Again, 39K of racing for this group here in London. Our London Classique, our 3rd race in this run, starting with the Eastern Europe, Central Europe, and now the Western Europe guys. We've got at least 1 rider back for a 2nd race of the day, Caleb Carl, we were just talking about. There's that Australian Hump Day Ride kit.
Oxley straight to the back after a little bit of a push off the front. A lot of times that can be what happens through the when you bite off a little bit too much, more than you can chew. Skylab with 2 riders, Rigby and Caleb Carl. We'll see if they start working together as well. D. Williams from OTR Blur, always a rider to watch out for. They're very quiet here amongst this group, though, so far. Nobody really making any serious moves. It looks like they're just really interested in these sprint sections, or perhaps wait until later on in the race to make anything happen. Ortvik saying 2 ghost power ups.
I think this is
my chances.
I think there's a pretty good example, though, of when everyone's on the same page as far as realizing that a solo attack at this point in the race isn't going to get you anywhere. And just as I say that, you can see someone is going to make a bit of a move here. Deploying the ghost power up, going for that invisibility.
Betram here out of Germany from the BZR team. A little bit of a kick. 1 second.
Yeah, starting to grow that advantage here a little bit. See if anybody wants to go with. And it doesn't look like anyone's going to take the bait right now. Still very, very early.
With
The
how
first,
calm this pack is and just trusting. Well, no, I mean, as you can see, it didn't really go anywhere. So again, the pack just able to pull anything in that they want to at this point. Betram, I mean, most likely going to find himself mid-pack or off the back unless he has another kick just now. So that is the risks that you do take, and it may be why we're not seeing a whole lot off the front at this point. Rigby now starting to go from Skylab, as you can see. Uman there from CLS locked directly on his wheel. Patterson from the Fusion development team. And Schwart there from Dirt. Here comes the arrow power-ups.
a lot of
Lots
guys
them being
sprinting.
popped here. Yeah, interesting enough. And Patterson timed it really well
Now, the
there, it looks like.
danger is if you thought you were going to take it easy there through this sector to see what happens now, to see if there is a bit of a split in this group. We might find a few riders in trouble here, but it doesn't look like any reason to panic. Well, a couple of guys there who've got some work to do.
Harms, 8 watts per kilogram, not a rider you usually find off the back. It looks like maybe a little inattentiveness through the sprint as you were
Exactly.
talking about
That would
there.
be the word, yeah. But the peloton still showing a relative conservative start to this race. Isn't going to pour it on right now. So it looks like everyone will safely get back up into the group without having to go to the panic stations.
Morrison, the rider out of New Zealand, looking to get back on terms here. And amongst the women, using a drafting power, Basto's not giving a whole lot of help. Now at 3 seconds, she was almost there. Doesn't look like 5.2, 42K an hour, 41. This is still possible if she does have this kind of effort for long enough. But that pack is slowly rolling away at 40 kilometers per hour. I'm not sure this is happening here, and it may be a two-person chase here for the rest of the race, though.
Yeah, that's Sarah Morrison that we're pulling for right now, the only woman that I see taking the start here in a strong men's field. I wouldn't count her out yet.
We do have another sprint coming on up here. The C3s now. We'll jump on in with them, and they're just coming into their second, I believe, sort of, this may be their first sprint, actually, at the 10.9 kilometer mark. We'll jump in with them.
I'd love to know how Eric Hordvik ends up on the Australian Hump Day Ride team, being Norwegian. Is he a Norwegian living in Australia?
That's a great question. It's also one of the largest organizations in game, with like one of the largest group rides. And so if you're hanging out with that group ride a lot, it may have something to do with it. Wow.
I could see that. Yeah, exactly.
Wow. So I mean,
We'll have to
every
do some
Wednesday,
research.
Aussie Hump Day ride, right? They get going at, I don't even know. I think it's a perfect time for maybe European riders as well to get a big ride in. So, the Aussie Hump Day ride on Wednesdays has been a pretty big deal. So most
An institution, hasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. So picking up riders from around the world has probably been something that they can do. But it's a good question.
We'll do some. We'll send our research team out to
We'll talk to Tim
get some
Searle
answers.
more. Talk to Tim Searle some more about whatever his 1 million
Eric-
kilometers on Zwift.
Yeah, right. It sounds like a job for Eric Schlange, maybe.
Does look
Zwift
like a little bit of
Insider
split almost
report.
here, Dave. This is the C3.
Close. Yeah, it's a huge group. Looks like almost 80 riders, 79 riders took the start, and almost all of them are in the field right now, although you can see it takes some work to hold on to these wheels here. Hang in there, everybody.
Yeah, on the front, it does look like WRCC. Not familiar with that team. We'll see if we can figure out who that is. But C3's now making their way around. It's going to be Grupo Compacto, but not so much in the C1s as we move back on over to them. They have a situation on hand with Harms and Oxley attacking the two WLC riders as they head into Whitehall. Another attack counter from N. Patterson from Fusion Dev. These are some moves. 4 riders trying to make some things interesting, and the pack's not really responding just yet. Now here it comes. as Bramwell, HDR also using a ghost power up, looking to go across. Pedersen's got a gap now. This is a solid gap too. 3 seconds
Yeah.
over the top of here.
It's interesting, Nathan. I'm wondering, is the Hungarian rider Peter Ballant back for another race? He wasn't in our central, but he was in the eastern, and I've got him on the start list here in the western field as well. It'll be interesting to see if that name pops up on our leaderboard here, as right now it's Pedersen with a strong move here in our C1 race that we've got in front of us.
Ortvic coming over the top, it looks like. Is he going to continue on? This is a solid move if he does so. 49 kilometers per hour. And this is where the speed matters the most because a lot of times riders are going to sit up after those initial kicks. Nobody's going to want to chase. And if there were a time to go, this may be my favorite place if I didn't already try and attack from the bottom of Whitehall. And Hortvic now 4.8, 4.9 at 44 kilometers per hour. Caleb Carl setting it at 44 at the front, though, as well. Keeping him well within the reins, and they're just staying steady here. Hortvic's going to have to really jump. Nope, not going to happen. And it's all back together.
Yeah, the only reason I could really see attacking would be to try to force other teams to chase if you had a sprinter on your team that could sit in. Otherwise, I don't know how much good you're doing for yourself. Small group here. And the one team, it looks like Australian Hump Day Ride has 3 riders in this group.
Yeah, we do
So they
have
might
some
be
team representation for sure. So, I mean,
Yeah.
HDR,
Wahoo couple, few, actually.
Skylab with a
See that-
couple. Does Fusion
That could
Dev
come into
have
play.
more than one, or is it just going to be Pedersen? And, Skylab with a couple here. WLC, Team CLS also have, I think, a solid representation here with at least, I think.
It's kind of a
2
mini
riders.
peloton, isn't it? I mean, it seems like almost everybody's got a teammate or 2. Not quite everybody. But it's not a bunch of
recognize,
individuals.
Veritas have actually stepped up, it looks like, and are now using a kit in game that across the team, I think, as I've noticed them all with a similar setup, or at least these jerseys are all in game at this moment. A little bit of a kick here coming on through from Rigby. Carlet from the Dutch racing team. This is neck and neck, it looks like, right to the line. I can't call that one. I have no idea. I'm going to go back to the replay. That was...
Caleb Carl's teammate out of the Isle of Man there.
That was as close
Rigby,
as it
looking
gets,
very,
I
very
think.
strong.
I think that, I don't know if I've seen a sprint closer than that. That was, right
Dead
to
heat.
the
there.
line. Yeah, completely dead heat. We got to go back to this.
I'm
Here,
going to go back to
and-
the back end API.
Yeah, this replay probably won't even give us any.
Wow, that's incredible.
That is, I can't. I thought I was going to say that Carla. Now it should.
That is honestly as close as we have ever seen.
So Carluck is leading right here. Like right here, he's leading because you see it on the rider nearby list, right? Now, depending on where the line actually is, because right here he's leading, right there he's not. So
Yeah. And that happens in about half a meter. That's incredibly close. Wow.
that might have been down
And
to the
again-
thousandth of a second how close that was.
And it's sort of misleading because just because what you see might tell you one thing, but that's not necessarily the truth. The back end API that we talk about will tell you who the actual winner is, which might not be corresponding to what you see. I know that's confusing, but
It will be corresponding to the rider nearby list, though, I believe. I'll have to double check on that. So it's one way I've kind of gotten around the visual, because the visual, doesn't always give you exactly, but then the rider nearby, but I might be totally wrong about that. But it's worked out well for my predictions there. But, we've seen some other things happen in the past as well. So there is that as far as where the line exists is going to be the question there. And it looked very, very close between the two of them. That was not for the win. Obviously, that was for the sprint
Yeah,
points
we
on the
should.
day.
So how are the points? So that's something that there's intermediate sprints that happen throughout the race that you'll see riders contesting. That explains those sprints, and there's points that are associated with that.
Bramwell to the front now with Udin, Bergenski. It's all calm again. Racers not really looking to race too hard out here today, it looks like, in the C1s. They're really liking these little sprints and then roll around for the final here. They're really interested, it seems like, in taking the win out here today with this kind of a roll, the way that they're racing this. But in the C3s, it's a little bit different, as it does look to be spreading out. Super duper fast missile from the UK. Making a little bit of a move with Kane and Diepenmaat here from the WLC. Dutch rider as well. It doesn't look like they're going to capitalize on this. In my opinion, they should. There's a large enough split. I'd be looking behind me at this point and noticing how incredibly large this gap is with how many riders they have up there. This is a moment where you could split the field in half and really up your chances for a win.
Yeah. I mean, absolutely. The problem is trying to get 22 riders on the same page. Nearly impossible to do. So you're going to end up with 2 or 3 riders doing all of the work for the entire group here, and that's generally not going to cut it. You'll see things welded back together.
I'm loving the comment coming here from Chris Koch saying it was the helmet choice that made the difference in that sprint that we just watched in the C1s. And I wouldn't disagree.
0.00001 second, right? Yeah.
I'm wondering if the helmet was actually a ZRL helmet too. I didn't actually take a look. I could look at the replay again and see. But if it was, that would be phenomenal. I think it was actually. But there is, I don't know if they're only cosmetic. I heard there may be some changes happening with that. So, with some of that. So interesting to see, but it may have been that little bit. There may have been a little bit. There's enough of an advantage with the helmet situation that
the CRL winner's helmet is
well, no, I don't know that. It's that that was a question. That was a question, but the as to whether or not they're going to start adding more and more to those what used to be only cosmetic. So we'll have to wait and see. My opinion is that we should. My opinion is that we should have more.
You're saying that
in that way. My opinion, from a gamification standpoint, to make things interesting, would be the more setup differentiation you could do to go in your garage and trick out your setup, the better. That's my opinion. That the more of that we can do, the more that people want to play the game, the more that they want to get involved, to get invested in their setup, is an awesome thing to do. And then differentiating where they function well as well, right? Like, would be absolutely awesome to see. And I feel like the community has slowly started to change tune on that, because it used to be a lot of no way, keep it real, outdoor. It's nothing like in real life. What are you talking about? It's like, well, actually it is. You can gain a lot of advantage. And then the next thing that come through is like, well, it's not fair. And you just want to be, my ability against your ability from a physical prowess. But there is a little bit of like, in real life cycling, if you want to compare it there, or across, what happens across a lot of other sports where you need to get your setup absolutely perfect. There's a fun side to, an advantage just being as tactically smart as you possibly can with what you bring to the table.
Yeah, going back to the start of that, I think what you're saying is, should some helmets have more of an aerodynamic advantage than others? Is that what we're talking about?
Yeah. Or
right.
what if it's
right.
raining?
So,
and and you have the right one for the rain. I don't know. Like, it would be great to have a
Sure.
lot of different.
No, I understand. Yeah.
Dynamics here.
No,
Brzezinski
definitely.
now. Actually, this is going to be the C1. Excuse me on the graphic there.
I think part of the
coming through.
problem with that argument is if you want to try to get like, that goes back to the in real life. Like if you want to get Matthew Vanderpool to come race, he doesn't want to be at a disadvantage because he doesn't race on Zwift all the time and be up against people who've got a whole bunch of equipment that they've earned by, rightfully earned by racing a lot.
So does he?
A lot on
So
Zwift.
my question then is, does he want to ride Zwift actually then?
Well, that's fair. Right. Well, so-
then you don't really want to ride Zwift. You just want to come and hang out for one race. Well, sorry,
Right, but
But
apparently there's other people that think he's really good for marketing Zwift. So
Dave just says it. All right, Harms now on the front, 8.2.
no. I think he's really good for marketing. So people respect him and they love him.
100%. 100%. I agree. I
So-
agree 100% there.
So, yeah, I mean,
I'm going to leave that one alone. That's a whole can of worms, which we need to have on a podcast. That's for sure. Which we have had that discussion before, actually, over on Zwiftcast. I don't remember which one. So, Bramwell continues to get the trucks. Not too happy about it, it seems, here in our C1.
33%.
It's not. He doesn't think it's 33% as they come through. Harms off the front here. I like the move. Nobody doing a whole lot, it looks like, to chase it down.
The power-ups, speaking of that, the power-ups that when you say truck, that's going to be the draft, which was, so I guess it's 33, a third, then, Ghost, the helmet,
I believe
which
it's
is
actually
aerodynamic.
50, 30, 20, like around there. I believe today they've set it up
50
to be
for
50
aero?
for the arrow. Yeah, from what Anna said this
Right.
morning. Now I'm relaying. Anna this morning went and looked it up for us and said, and I trust her whiteboard. So 50%, 30%, and 20% for the Ghost. But we've seen a lot of Ghosts out there, or at least I think the Ghost power up just isn't really like it gets your attention. Oh, they went invisible. Okay, it's an invisibility.
Right, it
power
has a
up.
high impact. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So yeah, the Ghost is invisibility. The truck that you see is draft, and the helmet is the aerodynamic one, or aero one.
Loving the comments.
I've thought
coming
the
in as
same
we open
thing.
this up. Yeah, we opened up a can of worms. Maybe we'll interact with it here, Dave.
I don't know that that's a can of worms. I mean, wind direction would be interesting for sure. Yeah, I mean, obviously it would impact, like you'd have the echelons forming, and that would really change the way racing works for sure.
Like looks like Duncan McCrae says, yeah, it could be fun or awkward. It could be fun introducing crashing on April Fool's Day. Why don't we just introduce crashing in general? You get the ability to knock out half the peloton behind you instead of a burrito. Like if you do enough work at a certain point.
I don't know that people want that. I thought that was one of the joys, was getting away from the crashing.
Well, as long as you don't get hurt. I mean,
That's
as long
true.
as
You don't get hurt.
You
You don't destroy your equipment either.
Right?
So that's
well. Then you could start adding damage to your equipment. You have to repair it with drops. Then you really get into the gaming side of things. Is that has there's plenty of games where if you do crash, you got to go back into the garage and fix some things up with whatever you've earned. But that's taking it to the next level. But I would actually like to see the ability to, if you do your job well, whatever that job is predetermined to be. You're a sprinter, you take some sprint points down, you get rewarded something a little bit extra for putting in that work, playing well. Oh, I got a banana peel, and you're able to take out somebody a little ways up the road. It only lasts, you can only have it for a minute, so you got to use it quickly or something. Like there's all kinds of different ways you can make it make sense that if you do your job well, you end up with a little
bonus, a
and
little
also,
tidbit.
then, you have a lot of Zwift racing where like, oh, we just roll around until we hit the sprint, or we just roll around till here. And that would eliminate that completely. Adding those kinds of things, you start adding incentives to attack the field. You then get more attacks on the field.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, it goes back to what we were talking about, right? I mean, there's in real life racing and there's Mario Kart. right? And I mean, I certainly don't want to play Mario Kart.
Yeah.
With all kinds of bells and whistles
Mayhem.
and those
Lots
kind
of
things.
mayhem everywhere
right.
all the time. It just doesn't make any. I don't know, Dave. I wonder
No.
if you would actually enjoy it. Like I wonder
No.
if you would be smiling and having fun though. Like you could have two different worlds, right? You have one world which is like just have fun Zwift, right? And then you have another world where it's like this is serious competition Zwift. So you have like compete, and then you have like go play. And like in the go play one, you got banana peels and lightning strikes, and I mean, you can just take.
I kind of feel like we
field.
have that. I mean, like to be honest, when I'm Zwifting, it's go play Zwift, and I'm looking for dinosaurs and Easter eggs out there and that kind of stuff for sure.
See,
but when I watch the
Chad's
racing,
yeah.
What?
Go ahead, Dave. I'm
Yeah.
sorry for interrupting you.
No, I just said when I watch the racing, I like to keep my racing pure. That's for sure.
Yeah, and I'd agree. At the high
I don't
end
even
competitive level, you need to have it needs to make sense. So like the randomness is only enough when you come to like a competitive space. It needs to coincide with ability in a certain way that makes sense and keeps the playing field in a fairness.
Agree, and I think we're right at that threshold now with the randomness of which one of the power-ups do you get. Is it arrow? Is it draft? Is it ghost? I think that's enough gamification. I'm pretty happy with the level of it myself.
So for me, it's the other way around. I think it's too random at this point, and that we need to create incentives to get them. So, and then you could add more of them if there were incentives. And so right now, it's just like you roll the dice and you get something. Whereas, no, let's not roll dice. Let's earn them. And then that would be a little bit more toward rewarding efforts that are toward winning the competition rather than let's just throw some dice down and then somebody gets lucky. But they didn't actually.
But you could argue then that that's getting away from pure racing because bike racing is about getting your wheel over the finish line first,
but it's
not
getting
about
closer
winning
to pure
incentives.
racing than a random dice roll is. So like a random dice roll, it's getting closer to earning it like in real life racing than the current random dice roll.
How do you earn something in real life racing?
The first one to well, okay, so I earn the whole shot. That's an advantage. I earn the first one into the cobbles. That's an advantage. I earn the first one into the corner and a crit because I sacrificed 12 watts per kilogram to get there. So there are plenty of situations where I'll fight to be in the right side of a wind. And I'm there then when I get there. I had to fight for it.
So what you're saying is positioning.
Sure, positioning in that situation.
But that's same thing here. Yeah.
You could add that here. So I'm saying we add more.
The benefit of
that
positioning
kind of
is the positioning that you get.
By giving some sort of a power up or something that could give you an extension off of the effort you.
So
if
you win the whole shot, you get a bonus for that.
Sure, yeah. I mean, it could be all kinds of different things that you could do. Let's say, and it would. This is a long conversation, but it would be in my favorite situations would be based on roles. It would be based on, are you a sprinter? Did you select that? Okay, here's the power-ups you can get for being a sprinter. Are you a workhorse? Are you working for the team? Okay, well, guess what? Your burrito power-up, let's do the opposite of that. Make it a super draft for the whole team power-up, but it only affects your team, but you have to do work at certain times on the front of the pack, and then you open up that power-up, and bam, now you give your whole team 100% boost for a certain amount of time, set up a breakaway. But you are domestique. That's your role. And you only get these power-ups, So anyways, this is a longer conversation, but those are the kind of things that you could add that would be competitive in nature. They would not be lowering the bar to more randomness. They'd be raising the bar to being able to impact a racing tactical situation instead. Anyways, that would be 50 cents. Actually, no, it's free of charge, everybody. All right, the Esports here turn now to the front, it looks like. We're in with the C1 still. 29.6 kilometers, under 10K to go. And Karluk has been really on the move here a lot, it seems like. Be watching out for the rider for the Dutch team. He has been making a show today. He still has Caleb Carl to deal with. Caleb Carl already with one race in the legs. Is he going to have anything left? Because I think going up against Next Esports was a little bit difficult on the man today. But without that kind of firepower here today, is Carl going to still be a favorite?
Yeah, and certainly one thing that we've learned is that there will be a late race attack. They've still got a little more than a lap of racing remaining here. Again, these are our C1s that we're in with, and they've whittled this group down to a reasonable number. But I would expect, I mean, Caleb Carl's a name that certainly comes to mind for a late race attack.
Yeah, it'd be great to see if he is able to pull that off here. We are jumping into the
I'm
final,
looking right now. I'm
real
wondering
quickly.
how did,
Go ahead, Dave.
so Caleb Carl, yeah, if it comes down to a sprint, it looks like Martin Anhoy, the Danish rider, most likely the man to beat. And I'm trying to make sure that Anhoy's still in this group. I have to believe he is. Although, I'm not seeing him.
Yeah, let's double check and see.
This is
where
Rui
things are at. That
Oliveira.
was, we were just in with the C3 sprint there real quickly. Want to make sure that we caught that. They're second to last one. And then
So
gonna
they're
head into
actually
their
the C.
final lap.
So the C3, back with C1s here that we've got now. So they've, the C3s were out on their last lap, you're saying?
Just jumping into the last lap. We got a lap and a half to go here for the C1s as they head into the hall here for another time. A little bit of a ghost power up now on the front. It looks like Bramwell, AHDR, making a move. Gets a gap. It's out to 22 meters. That's exactly what I love to see if it goes out. If it goes out quickly like that as well.
So he's got teammates. Now, this is where it starts to make some sense, right? You can see McClellan there sitting on the chase that Griff is being forced. So this is tactics. This makes sense. This isn't just attacking because you can. They're using some strategy right now, AHDR. Good for them. So Bramwell going to put pressure on the other teams, hopefully setting up their sprinter. There's Anhoy that we're talking about. That's going to be the man to beat, in my opinion, out here. Throws up some big, big numbers.
Williams
It's
OTR
good.
Blur to the front, looks like. Anhoy, as you said. Rigby from Skylab doesn't look like they're super concerned as it shuts down to 3.0 on the front there.
Yeah, and that's no reason to be super concerned. If everybody, as we said the other day, many hands make a light load. If you can get a few riders to help chase this back and not put all the pressure on one rider, that certainly leads you to believe that we're going to see a field sprint out of this group, or a reduced group sprint, I guess you could call it. But that,
TBR
what we just
Superfan.
witnessed.
I'm loving TBR Superfan here. I think he's actually cheering on the HDR rider who was off the front there for a second. Good to see it. Hanging out in the chat. Oxley WLC keeping things quiet. As you said, now, it's Oxley actually off the back. I thought that he was still involved here. So that's actually a little bit of an upset, as I was actually expecting him to be toward the front still. But now Harms and McClellan controlling the front of this group here, Dave. Your prediction there, it's going to be Anhoy, unless they drop him off. Is there anybody else out there, though, Dave, that can really challenge that kind of power?
Pedro Nunez is in the neighborhood, and Alexander Danel, the Swedish Zwifter, catch a little bit of a break out there. Right timing or Zwiftcraft will be really big as far as that goes. It's not just a strongman sprint. You got to time this right.
Looking at the watts per kilogram, and you're spot on there, though. I mean, Martin is head and shoulders a little bit there. Matthias Bertram, though, as well. Now, is he still involved, though? Or is he off the back? Matthias has a solid 1,300 watts to give in a final sprint, but I'm not sure that he's made the MDC rider, 1363. It may be a 14.2 because he's a much heavier rider. But that's going to be the question: is the pure wattage going to end up paying off for him?
Well, it's the kind of sprint where it does, to tell you the truth, as we get one last recon here, one last look. That's the arch that they're going to be sprinting for in just a moment. This is the group. Your winner's on your screen right now, but who is it going to be? They've got about 6K left to sort this one out.
This is going to be Bertram right here. This is the rider I was
It's a
just
big
talking
group.
about. 1,363 watts for 15 seconds. That only comes out to a 14.2 watts per kilogram, though, for his weight. So, what's going to be king out here is going to be the question there.
It's a raw watt kind of sprint. So, yeah, that Bertram certainly is going to be a guy that you'd expect to see on the podium. Which spot? Oof, it's going to be tough to tell.
That's the other question here with that as well. Here, Dave, as well too, is
Someone's
how
gonna
fast
attack,
is this
too.
final lap going to? Yeah, exactly. How fast is
Right.
final lap going to be? And a rider like this with his his FTP, I don't think is going to be quite as high as some of these other riders here, and he might be in a struggle bus if it comes to that point. You see what I'm saying? I mean,
Sure. And is James Hodges actually in this group? I don't think he is. I haven't seen Hodges. He's on our start list, but he would be his profile would be the type of rider that I'd be super concerned about. But I don't think that I haven't seen James.
I did see him early. I did see him early on, but I think he dipped out of the race.
He must have pulled the pin. Yeah, because
so.
he certainly would be the kind of rider I'd watch. But Caleb Carl, I'll go back to Caleb. He might be the rider that attacks at 2-3K out and is able to hold on as well.
We do have a situation. We're into the final K of the C3s, and there is an attack over the top of Whitehall. Let's go ahead and head on over to our C3 race, and we'll come back to here for the final few Ks of the C1s as well. But in the C3, we're with LEQP off the front. Tack up into the final climb into Trafalgar Square, 32.1K. They're only doing 5 laps, so one less here. Team NL, the Netherlands here, trying to come across. And it looks like it is going to happen for Team NL. They got 4 seconds. I think this is going to happen here, Dave, unless at 189 beats per minute, there's just nothing left in the tank. Are they? Oh, man, this is touch and go right now.
Yeah, and so here we go. This is going to be brutal. There's the Flamme Rouge, the red kite, 1K. The gap, it's just enough that I think I got to put my money on these two. But it's going to take everything they've got, Nathan. This is Van Urk, again, the LEQP rider. Oh, boy, it's touch and go right now. Super duper fast missile. That's discouraging when you hear that you got that bearing down on you.
4 seconds now. It looks like they're down to 3.7 watts per kilogram for Nguyen from Team NL as well as Van Rant. Oh, man, I thought they were going to make it happen. Now there is a ramp up again. I thought he was fading because he got enough of a gap here at this point. 7.7 watts per kilogram. Team NL trying to come across. It's 185 beats per minute, but I don't think it's going to happen at only 2 seconds. He needed 2 or 3 more. If it was still 5 seconds, I think it would happen. I'm going to go back to the group because I think, he's still out there. Maybe going to make me eat my words here. Here comes the group coming fast, though. Van Urk here trying to hold on right to the line. The group's fast? Not really coming fast. I know. It's not. He's going to just barely hold on to the line there. Oh, my goodness. What a move.
You do not see that often. You really don't, Nathan. He holds on. Wow. Well, even the group, you could feel they had heavy legs in that last K. But Van Urk with an exceptional performance there. That was pure guts.
What a move. What a move. And that last little kick to the line. And, you can see the watts per kilogram ramp.
Blown away.
Behind. I thought for sure they were going to make it happen, but one last little kick, and there it is. And he made it happen by a bike length. Going to be cold.
So Nguyen ends up, the rider that Van Urk was in, Nguyen there, ends up in probably 6th place.
I know, and he was with him. I mean, talk about how close.
Yeah, so Van Urk, the Dutch rider there. Yeah, about 6th place there for Nguyen. What a finale that was for our C3s. Jumping back in, boy, these guys are right down to it, Nathan. This is our C1s now into their last couple K.
as they make their way into Trafalgar Square for the final time. It's going to be about 1.5 kilometers to go. Bertram, we were talking about Bertram here.
Yeah, who's
He-
left?
You know,
That's
I really
Anoy's
want to
still
know
here.
if he can make this happen. I'm excited to see if he can because
Who's that?
you know, the watts per kilogram is king idea versus the pure wattage.
Sure.
You know,
I agree with you.
steamroller
That's
here. So this is gonna be really interesting to see because we know that this rider has the kick. Now, if they make it too fast though, he's already at 186, right? So if they make it just a little too fast for him, he might not be able to pull, you know, the maximum amount of wattage that we could see from this rider. So we'll see if he can bring that
That's
heart rate down a little
Bertram.
bit.
That's Martin Bertram that we're talking about here. Sort of the question is this a raw watt sprint? Just who can make the most watts, or always you have to look at the watts per kilo element out here as well. How much do you weigh? And I mean, my estimation is going to be that this is a Martin Anhoy, the Danish rider, the DBR man. It's his kind of sprint. But Nathan, this will be fun to watch. It really will, because there's no doubt that Bertram is a monster.
And the other thing here is this last 1K to go, we've seen over and over again attacks. This group, though, does not.
So that's why I
seem
think Caleb
interested
Carl
at
might
all.
win. That's where I'm like Caleb Carl or his teammate Simon Rigby. But if they're gonna, they would need to be attacking now, and they're not. As a matter of fact, that window is slammed shut. To tell you the truth, we're going to be
right
looking at
here
a
would
field
be the
sprint.
last chance, I think, and we have not seen it. So I think you're right.
No, this will
Field
be a group
is gonna
sprint.
Be it. Here we go. 500 meters to the line here at this
All right,
point.
who's your money on? Who's your money on? Do you want to go with Bertram or Anhoy?
I think Anhoy is going to take it, to be honest, but I have a little bit of a side bet for actually Karluk though. Karluk, here comes Karluk. I think it's over. I forgot for some reason that this man had 13 watts per kilogram to give. But no, Peterson, I was incorrect. Nunez out of the woodwork. Who is Nunez? Veritas shows us what they've got. What a move by Nunez. Man, back and forth.
Veritas.
I thought we had called it this way. We'd called it that way. And then all of a sudden, Veritas says, no, guys, you were way off.
And that might be the first legitimate field sprint that we've seen all day on the London Classic course, the final for the Zwift Classics. We finally get that field sprint we were anticipating, Nathan. It has been a really dynamic day of racing out here.
I thought Karluk here from Dutch Racing with that move.
Thought that was it.
Yeah.
I mean,
that looked to be it. He went with, I think that's like 150 to the line, but watch Nunez and Peterson.
Just exploding out there.
Was that
Pedro
17
Nunez.
watts per kilogram from Nunez? I'm going back a little bit here real quickly. Is that right? What was the maximum that I saw there for just a moment? 17.5 coming from Nunez. And where is he coming from in that pack is my other question. He's already ramping 16.8 right here. 18.8. I mean, that's why the speed came out. And where he came from, he was already ramping speed up on a downhill section. So that's a missile if there is any. Talk about a launch pad. Veritas showing up. Nice kick to the line, beating out some of the best sprinters in this group. And who ends up with that third place. Karluk does hold on for second. Arms, it looked like fourth. We'll take a look here real quickly at the results in just a moment. But that's going to be it for our Zwift Classics, Dave.
Wow.
It's been 8 weeks of pretty amazing racing.
Yeah, it's fun. We hit a lot of great courses along the way. We watched fantastic racing. Not one of them disappointed. So, yeah, I hope we do that again next summer.
Yeah, every summer so far we've had since I think it was 2018. I think was the first time we gave a go at the Zwift Classics, and then it was hyped up a lot more last 2019 all the way through with a broadcast. So it's been a lot of fun to do. So let's go ahead and take a look here though at how things played out in the C1s as they came across the line. Dave, it says it's eHarms though. Interesting enough. Huh. Might have to get
interesting. And
I don't think I think there's something going on with the back end data. Guys, do not take that. We're gonna let everybody head on over to ZwiftPower.com. And I actually noticed that just in the we didn't show the results in the last one as well. I have a feeling something might be happening with
Glitch.
how it's something. We have seen a couple of reports as well in the chat and in a couple other places that something might be going on with some of the back end here. So we'll just let that figure itself out. WTRL always figure it out. There's a reason why they are the premier go-to event organizers, because they work really hard. And so big shout out to them. And also a shout out to Martin today. I do know that lost his puppy, lost his dog of many, many years. So everybody just have Martin in your thoughts. And we really care about him and all of the hard work he puts in and day out, as far as the hard workers behind all the production that happens here with ZRL, WTRL, TTT, the classics, that put in a huge amount of work. So just thoughts and prayers out for Martin and his fam out there today, as it's going to be a tough day, I think.
That's
tough weeks,
tough.
tough months. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
So. Well,
Yeah,
so what's happening next, Dave? We've got WTRL TTT coming up on Thursday. Friday, we got the Christian Armstrong workout. If you want to learn how to do the Alp the Zwift as best as you possibly can and get a workout for that, we're going to be aiming at getting your best Alp the Zwift time. And then we've got a little bit of a break until the ZRL. So it's going to be ramping up and figuring out who's who, I think, for the Zwift Racing League as we do launch at the end of September.
Yeah, obviously, with that next insured announcement, there'll be a lot more of that coming, as well as we're hearing exciting stories about riders transferring, and it's going to be an incredible season 4. That's less than a month away that things get rolling in the community. It was great having Greg Abbott joining us today. Super fun getting the information from such an interesting person, and I'm already looking forward to season 4. That's for sure. Unfortunately, I had to cancel an event for next, or not this weekend, but the next, because of those fires going on up at Lake Tahoe. Peter Stetna's pay dirt has been moved to next spring. So it's not just COVID. It's now these fires all over the western United States impacting things. But I'm heading to St. Louis this weekend for the Gateway Cup, which is a great 4 days.
I've gotten invited,
Should
Dave.
come.
We'll see if I can see you. We're going to see. Man, that's the second thing. So we'll see what it can make happen. I got invited. I've got things set up. Priorities, Dave. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, I hear you.
I might just race the last 2 days. I don't think I could do all 4. But if I can get down there, I'm going to have to take the bike. I thought my bike was like on the Zwift trainer, for my road bike at least. And I was just going to ride my mountain bike anytime I was on the road from here the rest of the season. But just
maybe not.
It's great training, but we might have to take it off. I got to replace the rear brakes though. Way too much cornering going on at Toad.
Yeah. Well, I tell you, so the last 2 days are much better days for you anyways. They're much more challenging, harder courses. So there's some hills.
Like to hear it. Now you're making me have to go train a little bit more for the back end of this week here. All right, everybody. If you haven't done so already, make sure to hit those follow buttons, subscribe buttons, comment, like, do all the awesome things that help out the channel. Make sure to sign up for your TTT before tomorrow, Wednesday, 1 p.m., 7 p.m., 1 p.m. Central, I believe it is, 7 p.m. UK. We will be back for the TTT on Thursday. Start getting your practice in for the Zwift Racing League. Get your teams together. Race the TTT. It's going to help you a ton to get that practice in before we head into the Zwift Racing League season number 4. The Christian Armstrong workout is not on the companion app just as yet. That is actually some messages I saw come through. We'll get that, but it's going to be noon on Friday. Hopefully that'll be in there as quickly as possible. Dave, Brendan Bylitis says he's going to be at the Gateway Cup, actually.
Oh, good.
Is already starting to say that they're going to be there. So if you want to catch James,
see you there.
St. Louis is the place to be. Maybe I need to get down there. It sounds like I need to get down there.
We'll see you there, Nathan.
Oh, man. Now the pressure is on. All right, everybody. Thanks for tuning in as always. Right on.